Yo, 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 what's happening, people? Hopefully, it's a welcome back for some of you. Fifth episode of Spotlight on Spurs. Yet again, new channel, so we're obviously constantly getting debuts on, but we've got some big guests coming on today. So I'd like to welcome into the show Jay from Change for Tottenham. How are we doing, my friend?
I'm not too bad. Getting excited because one, we've got a semi-final next week, and then the week after that we got a big protest, and it's edging closer to the end of the season, and this misery is going to be finished. So it's one of them. But yeah, no, it's good to be here, and obviously I appreciate the invite to come on.
No, 100%. I really appreciate you coming on. There's not been much to shout about with Spurs, so end of the season and protests. Let's see what happens in the Europa League, but we'll keep going on. Next up, a returning guest. Everyone's already too familiar with Chris. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, mate. How are you? All right?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Good stuff.
So put together just a couple of talking points. Obviously, kind of already most of the way through the week now, so I don't really want to kind of go over it too much. But first thing to talk about is obviously that Forest result, performance, atrocity, whatever you want to call it. So we won't spend too long on it. But yeah, go on, Jay. What was your thoughts on it, mate?
It's one of them games. You look at the stats and you think that we've played the best game of football you're going to see all season. But I mean, had a listen back to Andrew's comments this week, and it was, I believe we should have won the game. You win the game if you score the goals. So to say, we should have won, it's just a bit of bullshit. But at the same time, the one thing that we've got to be positive about is we got through the game without injuries. I think that was the main thing for me, seeing that lineup, and I thought we were expecting a bit of a heavy rotation. At the end of the day, he left that squad pretty much running. Romero trying to get a red card. I'm adamant that's what he was aiming for first half. Second half, we were better. There's no denying we were better, but at the same time, only counts you put the ball in the net. So, yeah, it was just one of them games where I understand fully that the emphasis is on Bodo Glimt, but still frustrating to lose every week.
Yeah, 100%. Chris, you got anything to add on that?
Nah, I think you're spot on there, Jay. I think you look at if an outsider didn't watch the game and you see the stats, you'd probably turn around and go, Tottenham are unlucky there. But just the same old, I think, in the Premier League now. I think we're just sort of expecting that everyone, as you say, positives were that you got out there, no injuries. I think the half-time subs were good, getting the two centre-halves off, keeping them fresh for the semi-final first leg. So, yeah, as you say, just going through the motions now and roll on end of the season so that we can actually have something hopefully to look forward to in the summer.
Yeah, I completely agree. I found it weird. I mean, the comments afterwards, I was like, I don't think we played bad. I thought it was, obviously we lost. I don't think we played bad. I don't think we played great. We should have scored. We should have got probably a few. But the comments afterward are they're getting weirder and weirder. Like so many times he says stuff and you're like, really? Like if he would have come out and gone, we played all right, we need to be better in the forward areas, and I think everyone would have gone, yeah, probably agree with that. But to say that we was sensational and was just a real weird sort of take on it. So yeah, I mean you've summed it all up. We weren't great, pretty much what we've seen, but I think that, as you said, the main thing was no injuries. Now obviously with Liverpool coming up, there'll probably be a few changes, but hopefully that means that the majority of the squad are fit for the Europa League. The big news for the same day that came out, I think it was about an hour after kickoff, was of course the Romero interview. Sure, everybody's kind of seen it now. I think that the quotes that originally came out, they were a little bit skewed because it seemed to be that he was the one that kind of put Real Madrid in the conversation when you read the interview. That weren't quite the case, but I'm sure I already know what your feelings are on this one. But what was your opinion on this one, Chris?
I mean, the way he's been playing the last 3 or 4 weeks, you can tell that he's already halfway out the exit door for me. He just doesn't. I think he's seen a bit of interest coming in, and he's probably, you don't know what's going on in the background with the agents and stuff as well. But for me, it looks like he just. I think I heard it on a channel the other day. Someone said that it's like he's purposely trying to get sent off so that he doesn't have to play any more games. And I'd partly agree with that. You can see that in the games he's played, he's not switched on all the time. He's got more mistakes in him than the normal. But yeah, it was always expecting probably poor timing, it all coming out. I think they said that interview was done at the training ground a few weeks ago, or maybe 10 days ago. So probably poor timing bringing it out.
For anyone that's not aware, apparently Spurs were fully aware of the interview. They were aware it was taking place and everything else. And yeah, it was done in the training complex. So yeah, I mean, Jay, you've already kind of touched on Romero from the Forest game, but what was your thoughts on the interview?
You know what? Timing's absolutely everything. And you know what? I heard Marlon from Spurs Kings speaking about it on Last Word on Spurs as well. You look at it and you go, the week before, 2 days before we played Frankfurt, all that come out was every player that's worth anything at Spurs was linked to a move away. And it's like, you look at it and you go, somebody at Spurs has got to get a grip on these agents talking. And then you look at an interview being conducted in your training ground where there's other players that are going to be either watching, looking in, a co-captain coming out and saying, yeah, look, at the moment I'm here, but I want to go to another club. I want to complete leagues. It's poor timing. It's going to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. And ultimately, you look at him, he hit 100 games for us on Saturday. That was his 100th game. And he's been with us 5 years. So you've got to understand he's a winner. He wants to win. I think this is the second time he's kind of taken a bit of a jab at the board and said it's not good enough. But I mean, at a time when confidence is probably low around the training grounds, and then you've got a semi-final on the horizon, surely it's better to say, look, let's not put that interview out. Let's play it off. Let's not talk about that. And he seems like he's gone, I'm going to play my cards now, force a move. And the thing is, he doesn't realise that he's got to answer to Daniel Levy, who in the summer could make it extremely difficult for him to leave. And I can see us demanding a lot of money for him. I can't see us budging on that 50, 60 million pound mark. And ultimately, who's going to pay 50, 60 million pound for a defender that plays quarter of a season?
No, I completely agree. I just find the whole timing of it was absolutely baffling. I mean, I actually put a tweet out straight afterwards saying if it was 2 games left, it would have been strange timing. But the fact that he's the vice captain, the fact he's barely been available and he's only just coming back to fitness, the fact that we are struggling so badly, and then also we've got that Europa League coming up. He's almost checked out. It almost he's, and as you said, for me, when I initially read it, I thought that it was very much him kind of making a statement. Whereas when you read it back, the report was kind of jabbing at him, but it would have just been that we're not going into that right now. But just because apparently the reason this reporter, he always has interviews with this specific reporter. They're close with like his agent and things. So this isn't just one that was like, this is one that he could turn around and go, look, I'm not happy with that. Like, let's calm that. Let's not speak about that. So, and it was a bit weird because he's completely disregarded the German league, because he was like, I've done all of the leagues now. I was like, well, the German league's not been involved in that. So it was such a strange one. And as you've already kind of covered, the fact that we've allowed that at our own training ground is just, it just shows a lack of leadership from the top for me. That's what I've always said about it. A lack of leadership from the top. There should be people out there that are saying this is not going to happen. It simply won't happen. And if it happens off campus, there's not a lot you can do about it. But to happen when he's sitting there in the Tottenham grounds, Tottenham training, is just absolutely ridiculous. So one thing that I've thought that hasn't really been discussed over the last couple of weeks is the fact that Spence has obviously came into the team, was in unbelievable form. Udogie then took his place in the Europa League. Spence come back in, and then Udogie's come straight back in. So just to try and mix it up a little bit, because I think everyone's kind of been saying very similar things on streams recently. I would like to see who you would have in your strongest 11, specifically at like the wing back areas and then the wing areas, because I think that a lot of fans kind of see a lot of positives in the fact that someone's probably injured and we went a slightly different way. So thought we just have a quick one. We haven't got to go into too much detail, but it's just I'd like to see what sort of preferences we have for our starting 11. So Jay, where would you be with if you was picking? We're not talking about what we think Postecoglou is, because I think that sometimes gets construed on like Twitter and things. Is a lot of the time I'll put out who I think Postecoglou would play, not what I would play. So what would be your 11 if you was the manager?
I mean, the strongest 11 for me, Vicario, just purely on the fact Kinski, he's young, he's inexperienced. You can kind of tell with him that he's not quite got his confidence yet. Two centre backs, quite simple for me. As much as Romero has annoyed me on his day, i.e. Frankfurt, he's best centre back we've got. Right back, I wouldn't mind seeing Spence having a go at right back and Udogie at left, which is a bit controversial because for me, Porro seems to be one of these players. He's great at putting in 30 crosses a game, but it's just like you look at his defence, he's always out of position. I know Ange likes to invert his wing back, so it could be that. But even in Conte's system, he wasn't exactly the most powerful player, especially defensively. Yeah. The two midfielders that I would go is Bentancur and Bergvall. At the moment, I think Bergvall's arguably our key player in the whole system. He seems to be the one who's making the driving runs. Depending on what James Maddison you're going to get as well, him playing just in front of them. Right wing, I'd have Kulu out there. I know he's better through the middle, but I feel if he can rotate about and cut in, he's great. Up top, Big Dom Solanke over Richarlison. Richarlison will play a half, get injured, and that's it for 8 games. So for me, he's just got to show a bit of consistency and he can stay fit before I can start saying I prefer that. And the brave one is just out of form at the moment. I certainly wouldn't be playing Son out there. It would be either Tell, Johnson, if Johnson could play that side. But I don't know. We just seem to, at the moment, we've got players that excite you when they're on the ball, but that's all they seem to do. There's never much drive in them or that end product. So it's like you're being asked which arm you're going to want to lose. So it's not great.
It's a great analogy to use when you're talking about your forward line and who are going to go and win your games, and it's like what arm I would lose. And to be fair, Nigel summed it up perfectly. A front three's hard to call, all much of a muchness. I read a stat recently about Richarlison, and during like his 4 years at Everton, he missed 20 games. And then in one stretch, I think he missed 19 at Spurs. And we do the same thing. Dominic Solanke, he didn't miss a Premier League game last year. Second game, he's injured. It's absolutely baffling. Chris, would you make any changes to that team?
I've liked Tell on the left the last couple of games. I think he's not played. If you look at him, you wouldn't say he's been sort of an amazing player, but you can see there's patches of him where he wants to get the ball, he wants to take on a player, he wants to try and get it going. So I'd like to see a bit more of Tell out wide. Again, with Maddison, I think you've spot on there, Jay. Depending on what one you're going to get, it'd be either him or, for me, I'd have Kulusevski in the middle behind the strikers. And then who'd you play if you do bring Kulusevski in the middle? Who'd you play wide right? I don't think Johnson's.
I'm asking you, mate. That
good enough.
It's
for me, I'd probably play Odebert out there. I think he brings a bit more than Johnson does. But I think with what Jay said, I wouldn't really change too much there.
So basically everyone thinks that Son was almost a blessing in disguise, the injury.
Yeah, probably a blessing. He's formed. You can't with Son, what he's done at Spurs and how he's been as a player at Spurs. Yeah, you take that into consideration, but I think based on form this season and how bad it's been, he's just not been up to it, and he's just not been there. So you can't play someone just because they've been at the club for so long, and I know it's a club captain. You should be the first name on this team sheet, but if your form's not there, you just need to take a break out sometimes. And sometimes getting 25 minutes on the bench, it might spark something. It might make you want it a bit more and want to prove your worth a bit more. So I don't think it's a bad thing doing that. As you say, it's just hard because he's the club captain and his stature around Spurs, what he brings, what he has brought.
there's always more to it, isn't there? When you drop a captain, there's always more. It's never just he's dropped and that's not great or whatever. With a club captain, it always becomes a massive story.
Yeah, and I think obviously with Son as well, the thing you can question, and it's the debate I've been having with myself. I'm well known for losing my head when he's having a stinker of a game, which obviously on my part he's had a lot this season. You got to look at the tactics. Like I said on Tuesday, you can look at his heat map before he got injured, and it looked like he was a substitute warming up. It's horrendous. But then you look at him, for example, for his national team, when he's given the freedom to run at players, cut in and shoot from outside the box. There's still a player there. So for me, I'd want to see him. I don't want to throw another contract at him and go have another year. But obviously, we're in a situation where we'd have to give him a year extension if we wanted to do that. But for me, he's got, obviously, there's talks that he's not going to make it back this weekend. It looks likely that he might be back first for the first leg versus Glimps, if not after that. For me, if I'd give him a run out versus West Ham, see where he's at, because obviously we know what Son can do, we know what he's done in the past, but we ain't seen it in the last 18 months, 2 years. And then it obviously falls back to looking, is it the manager that's causing this issue? Is it his legs going? Like, we understand he's getting older, so it's one of these things where you've got to give him that slight bit of leeway because he is a legend for the club, but at the same time, we've been known to holding on to passengers for far too long.
Yeah, I was asked to do on a fellow YouTube's they were doing some videos that are coming out during the off season sort of thing, and I actually started to look through like some sort of players, and Son's stats are just remarkable. He's in the top 20 for both goals and assists in the Premier League ever, and it just made me kind of I was quite harsh on him, and I was like, he needs to. And then when I see that, I was just like, but he is Son. And the goals that he scores and everything else. I think you're right, but going back to what Holly said, Tell's definitely more of a winger. I think, Chris, you mentioned it as well. For me, I think Tell's definitely looked more lively on that left-hand side. But what I find really funny is there's so many players that we could kind of, like you said about Kulusevski on the right, he's probably not best there, but I put him there. People moan sometimes, oh, it's the same 11 all the time. But for us, every single fan would pick a slightly different 11. Matty's got one here. So Bergvall, Matters, Tell, Solanke, Johnson. So he starts Johnson. Used to didn't involve Johnson in year 11. So there's and that is in some way you can say that's good squad depth. But I think it shows for us that there's a lack of top quality players because the top quality players are being everybody's team. Do you know what I mean?
It's like almost choosing what discounted item you want, isn't it? That's the issue.
And I think that's one of our problems is that the teams change so regular, and we've got so many players that have come in and not stepped up, and there's so many players that are offering different things in different positions that I think that's one of the reasons why the season hasn't gone so well. So this one is all about who or what is to blame. Now, obviously, the fan base at this moment in time are very much putting it all on the manager. Anyone that's seen any of the shows that I've been on, what I do, I'm very much different to that. I think that the manager has definitely got a part to take 100%, but I feel like we're kind of letting everyone else get away with it. So in terms of no straight answer, obviously, but who or what is to blame for us being this bad? I'll let you go, Jay. I think you're going to start with Son.
Yeah, no. The thing is, for me, you've got this group of players that we've seen it for the last 15 years. Every time it started going a bit sour, they down tools on managers. It's a mentality thing within the club. But then you look at where does that start? Does it go back to the manager who's so naive and refuses to change how we play? And obviously, I'm one of the people that guns for Ange often enough. But then against Frankfurt, he changed it how we needed to. He brought off wingers, brought in defence to see the game out. That's the first time I've seen him do it. And he makes little tiny in-game tweaks, but usually it's 10 minutes too late, or he doesn't wait till the game starts to slow down. What he waits for is a goal for the other team, and then he reacts to it. And by then, heads are dropping. But then ultimately, you look at the owners of this club, and obviously being as passionate as I am about this change for Spurs movement and obviously trying to create change within the club, it starts with Levy. It's always started with Levy. Pochettino made the comments, you buy a new house, you've got to put in the furniture. You go back to the days of sacking Martin Jol half-time. it always stems with him. And what he does is he likes to use managers as like bullets, not bullets, human bullet shields from the fans. And the one thing that has happened this time is because there's been protests and there's that much, not animosity, that's not the correct word, because obviously one thing we try to keep to is keeping it peaceful. But there is certainly a lot of anger towards the board at Tottenham. And he seems to have held on to Ange, but this time it seems like he's held on too long. And the manager himself now is the one getting, obviously, most of the stick, which it's not fair. But ultimately, if you're going to be the one that picks the team every week and you're going to come out, you're going to dig at the fans, you are going to be number one target. So for me, it's not just Ange, it's the players, it's the coaching staff, it's everywhere up to board level. And there's just so much within this club that's making it hard to love the club anyway.
Yeah, completely agree. Chris, if you got any more to add on that, it's virtually exactly the same thing. I think everyone is to blame. We talk about players and the amount of times that I've seen, but the players are playing in, they're not being coached, they're not in a system. And I'm like, don't stop them running. Don't stop them making 5-yard passes. That don't stop them making look like they wanting to be there at times. Do you know what I mean? So I think we're giving a pass to everyone else because of the Ange and everything else. But I think this has to be across the board for me.
Yeah, I mean, you look at every interview that you have with the players after the games, and I mean, Kulusevski's probably a really good interviewer as well, because I've listened to his last one and he said that we're not happy, like we all want. And as a player, you don't turn up. I mean, I've played amateur football. You don't turn up to a game, even if you're playing against one of the best teams, you still turn up with the thought in your head that, right, we're going to give this a go, we're going to try and win. Spurs just look like we've turned up to every single game and it's just like, let's just get this 90 minutes over with. Let's just go through the motions. They've not looked like they've actually had.
Is that the fans? Is that the fans you mean? Just get it over with so we can go home? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, I think anyone who's involved in Spurs just wants the game done. But the players have to take some level of blame. They've got to take some accountability for it because, as you say, they're the ones that are playing for the 90 minutes. They're the ones that ultimately can make the sort of progression or the changes. No one's even, as I say, from the top. I mean, the transfer window in the summer, you look at maybe the transfer window and sort of go, we didn't really do enough there. Ange come out and said, I'm quite happy with the transfer dealing. So level of blame goes on him as well, because if he wasn't happy, you should really be pushing him to try and get some more in. But yeah, I think, as you say, I think the fact that they're going to do sort of a review as well, it just proves that the whole club this season has just been a massive failure and every part of it has just failed. It wouldn't surprise me if we don't see a big, massive clear out and we do another rebuild next year because, again, some of the players that we've signed over the last couple of years they've just not produced to the level that they can do.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you're talking about the rebuilds, and this seems to be the kind of new question that's in and around it. Around Tell, should we sign him? Should we send him back? Is he blocking paths for players like Moore? What would you do with Tell?
Me, I'm in it. See, for me, obviously, the reports that have come out today are Bayern are willing to sell him to us cheaper. This is a player that's come through their academy. He's an international under-19s player. We know there's a player in there. So, like, for example, to respond to this, blocking players' path. If we were blocking players' paths, obviously, we've just played Werner for the last 16 months. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think with Mikey Moore, I adore him as a player. I don't think there was any sort of projection that he was going to be in the squad as much as he has been this year. But ultimately, if we can get a good deal on him, say like 30 million, 35 million, why not? Because we're going to be losing Son soon. We can't be relying on a 16-year-old to be doing a 17-year-old, to be doing Son's job. It's a lot of weight to be on his shoulders. So it's one of these things when people say, oh, well, we could get better. Realistically, where we are at the moment in the market, getting better's not really going to be on the table this summer unless we do somehow win this Europa League, and then that does change the whole dynamic of the summer transfer window. Ultimately, we're the club.
It changes everything from targets. So you go from having no Europe, your squad can be small. Like you can potentially let like a Romero go. We'll probably discuss that a bit later on, but you could probably let him go. You might be able to get away with having three seniors with a couple of youths. But if you get them Champions League, your Romero's going.
You need 22 players ready to play
just
every game.
Changes everything, doesn't it?
And that's what I mean. Like, obviously, the thing that sort of bugged me a lot this season, everybody's going, it's all on Europa League. Up until 3 weeks ago, we could have still finished in the Conference League or Europa League places. Now we've got coefficiency for the 5th Champions League spot. So throwing the league has done us no favours, because now prize money for finishing 17th is a lot different to finishing 10th or 9th. So there's a lot that's going to come into it. And obviously, I've seen Levy enough over the years to know exactly what his excuse for not spending is going to be this summer. And it's going to be, we finished 17th.
That's my big worry with Tel. I have no doubt Tel's going to be a good player, and I think in 3-4 years' time we'll be talking about a very, very good player. My worry is that if we go and spend that amount on Tel, we won't go and sign a centre midfielder. We won't go and sign a right winger. We won't go and sign obviously maybe sell Romero, and then it's we've done that because we bought Tel, and it's like a priority thing. Again, like, because you don't sign a player or you don't want a player, don't necessarily mean you don't rate him. I'd say I think Tel's going to be a good player, but in terms of priorities right now, and the fact that we have probably 8 or 9 left wingers at the club, I'm just like, if someone says we can sign Tel and we'll go and get X, Y, then 100% I'll be down to bring him in. But I'm just worried because of the ownership. I'm worried that, but we spent that and we don't have Europe, and then you're like, well, we've still got a lopsided squad that don't really make sense. In terms of more, if anyone, I've recently tweeted it literally about an hour before. There was an unbelievable interview, a kind of podcast with Flav and Lily White Rose.
Big up Flav.
Yeah, and literally everything he knows about youth football, and he basically went into detail about Moore. And there's obviously been an uproar recently. Moore should be starting week in, week out. And Lily White Rose has basically said Moore is more than happy with the amount of minutes he's got. People forget he's 17 years old. So in terms of blocking paths, I completely agree with you. I said probably about 3-4 months ago that Werner should now just be gotten rid of, and Moore should be coming on for 10-15 minutes at the end of games. I don't think he should be starting. I think physically, especially after he come back from whatever that was, whether it was an illness or an injury, whatever that was, he seems to have lost a little bit. But I think that this all goes back to, it all predates Ange, all of the planning of the squad, the fact we have 17 left wingers, as I said earlier. It's all about squad management. How have we got to a stage where we've got Solomon, Gill, who can't get in the squad, Moores can't get in the squad, we've got Werner on loan, we've signed Tel, we've got Son. How many wingers can you have? And none of them are even standout wingers. Like, we've just literally had a conversation and we picked different wingers in different positions. So my fear is, I think Tel's a good player. I think he will be a good player, and if we could get him, I think it would be good. My worry is that the resources will then not go elsewhere. And I think central midfield is a gaping hole for us. And I think right wing, as we've just kind of discussed, at the moment, Kulusevski's being put there, but is that not a position we need to
I just say, though, maybe signing Tel doesn't block Mikey Moore's path. It gives Mikey Moore that extra year or two that he needs to develop physically and also mentally prepare himself for it. Because, as you say, if he's on the bench and he's getting 10-15 minutes and Tel's that starting left winger, depending on what happens with Son, if Tel does come in for the right money and it doesn't block us then going to strengthen the squad elsewhere, I think Levy will see it as, well, we're signing a youngster who is more than likely going to get better for a good value. He'll see it as we're going to sell him on for a profit, and then it allows maybe Mikey Moore to either stay at Spurs and be a regular on the bench and get 15-20 minutes, or play in cup games, whatever it may be, or it allows him then to go out on loan and maybe go to the Championship or something, and then get some more minutes, get the experience because the Championship's a tough league as well. So going there is not like it's going to sort of block his development there either. He's going to get the physicality side of things. He's going to have that football side. So it would just depend on who's making. And also, you need to look at, if we're getting rid of Ange as well, does the new manager that we're going to get in, if he goes, is he going to use Tel, or are we going to sign him for a discounted price? New manager comes in and goes, I don't see him in my team. I just don't see him playing. And then you've then got a player that's not in the plans. Maybe he goes out on loan again. You've just wasted another player that you say the money could be spent elsewhere for the manager that comes in that does want to sign someone else.
That's why everything's so up in the air. As I said,
Yeah.
everything changes if we get Champions League, the targets, what we need, the squad depth, everything needs to change. And then that's not even taking into consideration that from all the reports is that Ange's gone anyway. Then are we bringing in Paratici? Will it be? So it's literally needs to all change, but it can only change from the very top, because it's pointless bringing in a manager. It's pointless signing players for a manager that comes in that don't want them players. Who then a director of football comes in and doesn't want that manager. It all starts from. But talking of Ange, Billy's come in with thoughts on Scott Parker links this week.
It's a great achievement what he's done. He's done really well, but I think it's probably too early. I'd like to see how he manages the Premier League. And he's got him up. I don't think he'd want to jump ship and come and potentially jump on the bandwagon that, if I go to Spurs, it doesn't go well, I'm going to be sacked anyway. So I reckon that would just, it's because it's obviously an ex-player as well. I can't see it even being an interview. I can't even see it being a question. It's just going to be, he's going to come up with Burnley and see how they get on.
I hope not. Their defensive record's been unbelievable, but we can't go back to going from one crazy system where it's gung ho, fly forward, score goals, then sitting back. And they've got some decent players. I like the goalkeeper. I like a few of their players, but Scott Parker is. I think I tweeted out and said, if Scott Parker's the answer, Spurs are asking the wrong questions in my eyes.
Yeah, it's one of them things. Where this link's come from is Matty Wells has basically requested Scott Parker. He's put his reference forward saying we should be looking at him. At the end of the day, we've looked at managers that don't really have the accreditations on their CV. And for example, he just doesn't. It was a mismatch. It's unfortunate because, he won the Scottish League, but when there's two teams to win it out of, it's not really ideal. But Scott Parker's one of these guys. He could either be like Steven Gerrard was, done okay in the Championship, comes to the Prem. Not Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, so does okay in the Championship, comes to the Prem, and it's a different kettle of fish. You've got to remember, there's so many different dynamics in this league, especially having to rotate through your European football, your cup football, your league football. And Ange found out very, very early on that if you mess your team up for your first cup competition, it plays with your league form. For me, you're right. It's not somebody that should even be on a short list. And that also goes for the likes of Kieran McKenna as well. That's another manager I want us to steer well clear of.
Yeah, completely agree. And some of the links, but we keep going back to it. Is that I've said what we need to do is we need to have a clear philosophy in terms of what we want, because you go from your Conte into your Ange, and all we do is flip flop between one thing. So recently everyone's saying we should be playing 5 at the back, and it's like, why have we secured a squad to play 5 at the back as soon as we've got rid of 3 managers or 2 managers that would play 5 at the back and suit this? But we go from one extreme to another, and even the people that have been linked, the managers that have been linked, they all play slightly different. Some of them you could argue play completely different systems. Some play different formations, and it's like we don't have a clear vision. We don't have a clear vision and understanding of what we want to do. Like, we're obviously going down this young player route. That seems to be the priority. It always kind of is, but that seems to be the priority at the moment. So you need to bring in someone that works with young players. But I don't keep going back to it, but Pochettino in his prime was the sort of manager you want exactly right now. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're bringing in managers that are not massive fans of playing young players, then what's the point in signing all these young players? It's just.
You look at Dele Alli. Dele Alli was prime example of that. Pochettino looked at him, thought he wasn't mature enough, and said, "Look, finish 6 months at MK Dons, come in the summer instead of signing in January." He come in, he worked with him over the summer. He brought him in a one-to-one coach. Obviously, the biggest talent, arguably, that's screaming out from the academy at the moment is Luke Williams-Barnett. We all know come summer, we're going to be in the same situation we was last year with Moore, where he's eligible for a senior contract. We've got Chelsea sniffing away around it. It's just going to be one of these things where you've got to get a manager that's going to manage expectations of academy players, as well as saying, look, I need the experience to come in, because ultimately our team is young, and I think we'll be naive to not think that a manager that comes in is going to look at Archie Gray, for example. This guy's been Leeds captain at one point last year. He's a phenomenal talent, and go, you're going to sit on the bench all the time. And personally, if Ange had anything about him and he wants to put all of his eggs into Europa League, these games that we're going to be playing coming up in the league need to be games where you are going to give your Archie Gray a run out in midfield, or you are going to give Mikey Moore a half of football. So it's just going to be interesting from here. So whoever we go for, it's going to be exciting, annoying, and we'll be back in this situation if we're not smart with it.
Is it going to be another 3-month-long managerial hunt again if Ange does go? Everyone's to blame for this season. Everything stems from that's exactly what we say. Ange is the biggest to blame. Players are to blame for not playing. Yeah, completely agree. Agree, mate. Matt did say earlier about some of the young players that have got out on loan. And funnily enough, Lily White Rose kind of spoke about Luca Barnett as well, saying that he's a massive Spurs fan, and apparently there was rumours that all of his family were Chelsea fans. That's all incorrect. Apparently he's massive Spurs. All his family are Spurs. So he's sort of one. If he does leave, then that's a club problem because he wants to stay as much as possible. So if there's anything that happens around him, then that's very much a club problem. But he did go into great detail. If you're interested in anything to do with the youth, then I strongly recommend going. I think it's about an hour. I listened to it on Spotify. It was brilliant, some of the details that he was going into, and there was inner workings of the youth kind of football that you kind of don't see. And as I said, he did speak about the Mikey Moore situation, and was kind of saying that I think Mikey Moore's had to cancel his Twitter account because he's been getting abuse and things like that. And people are saying that your mouth's starting, why aren't you? And the footballing world goes a little bit crazy, but I highly recommend having a listen to it if you're on the way to work or whatever. Obviously, carry on listening to this until after. But definitely recommend listening to that. So
just
what I'm going to do.
Just a quick one on the Luca Williams-Barnett, where the rumour come from about his family was basically he put a Cole Palmer celebration up. And his mum was on Instagram Live, I think it was, and she come out and she said he's a Tottenham fan, but his favourite player is Cole Palmer. So everybody twisted and turned that into he wants to go Chelsea and all this. So ultimately, hopefully he stays. And I mean, as Matty said, I love little Matty. He's up and coming as well, bless him. Some of these players that we do have out on loan, like Jamie Donnelly, for example, been a fan of his for ages. What he's doing this year at Orient is absolutely special. He's a player that can be around that first team next season, but again, links back to having the right manager in charge.
Yeah, 100%. So things that were mentioned again on that podcast were that Donnelly's already getting people in the Championship looking at him. Keeley was as well. So I think these players are now being able. One thing I've always said about Spurs, and there's been quite a lot of debate recently, that we should just be throwing our kids and they should be playing every game in the Premier League. Now, that we've got a certain amount of young players that are coming through that are able to progress into the first team. But our under-21s this year are something like fourth bottom in the league. They've won 6 out of 22 or something. So just to say, we should just be throwing these youth players and playing them in first team games and letting them go out and get absolutely walloped by teams is not going to benefit them in any shape or form. But we can definitely start integrating them. But the big thing that we've always got wrong for me is our loans. You look at Dane Scarlett, even to some regard, you could say the Harry Kane loans, or they've obviously played out in the long term, they did. But we've had so many players that we get out on loan and we send them to clubs and they don't play, they don't feature. Whereas this year we seem to have got that right. As Matty's already mentioned, the young players at Leyton Orient, Devine's played loads. Vuskovic has been managed quite cleverly as well in terms of how many minutes they've played. You could even argue players like Troy Parrott. He's gone away. Obviously, didn't impact the first team, but he's gone away. We've now got a fee for him, and that's what youth football's about. Everyone thinks that youth football is players coming in and starting for the first team, but if we can sell players like Skip for 20-odd million, that frees up, that pays for the academy for a few years. It frees up funds for us to go and buy other players. So I definitely feel like we need to start managing that better. And I think Paratici was kind of the he was the kind of start of that. He introduced a wage, got rid of the wage cap and everything else. So hopefully we are not blocking paths of people like more. We start becoming a little bit more in the youth players, because it gives the fans a lift, doesn't it? That Europa League game where we had a couple of the youth players come on and they scored the goals and won us the game. The buzz around the club, even though it was still not a great place, the buzz around the club was just incredible. just working through some comments, and then after that we will, because I didn't realise how far I was behind on the comments. We'll work through some comments, and then we'll move on to the change for Tottenham. And we can kind of give you the dance floor. Mason, how can he prove it without being given the chance? Okay. Spurs, but by Sunday evening we could be 17th unacceptable, laughing stock by the 3 relegated clubs. We could start the next season as the worst team in the Premier League. Well, I think that some of the clubs that are coming up, I don't think we will be. And by what's being said in the media, obviously, I think that we'll be having probably a managerial change. There'll probably be a few players in, few players out. Hopefully, we should be definitely moving up the table.
Ignore Mason here. He's a bit of a knob. No, it's one of my mates. But no, like you're right in what you're saying. Obviously, next season, this has been a freak season. I think you'll be naive to go, oh no, we deserve to be we do deserve to be 17th. But you look at the players we've got. These players aren't 17th place players. Like, there's going to be a change up next season. We could possibly have European football. If we don't have European football, we've got solely league and cups to focus on. So I think it means we'll play nearly 10% less games over a calendar year. I think this year it's 25% just due to the format. So yeah.
So Liam's come in with is it a good season if Tottenham win the Europa League? And if they do win it, does Ange stay any longer? I already know Chris's views on it. And Jay, you've kind of alluded to it, but are you both in the camp that regardless of what happens, he should be moved on, or should he be allowed to try and get things right next year?
He shouldn't even be allowed the semi-final.
I had a feeling that was coming.
I don't see from his perspective what's happened. I mean, as I said before, he mentally he must be sick of this now. He must be like, do you know what? I just want to get away. If he does win the Europa League, he can turn around, and I imagine if he does win it, even if they offered him another contract to stay on, I honestly think he would turn around and go, "There's your cup. Thanks for the experience. I'm off. See you later." And if he doesn't win it, I think the board should be like, "Look, it's not worked for whatever reason. We'll just call it here and leave it alone," because it's not been successful for anyone. If we do win the cup, I still don't see how all the other form everywhere else is. You can't look at a season and go, you finished potentially 17th, but you won a Europa League. Well done, Ange. It's a brilliant job. It's you've got the trophy for the fans, but it's not where we need to be sitting in the league. And as you say, if we don't win the Europa League, we've literally got no Europe next year either. So then that changes everything again. I just think no matter what happens, he's got to be, his time's got to be done, and for everyone's benefit, I think he needs to just go and try something else.
Yeah, I think that the way that he's been recently is so completely different to when he first came in the club that I actually think he might have had enough himself.
Yeah.
Even if the club said, "Look, you've won us the first trophy, European trophy, and God knows how long, so we'll respect that and we'll keep you on." I think he might just say, "No, I'm all right," because there's so many things. I mean, going back to when he was first getting interviewed by the club staff, and he constantly would get silly questions like, "Oh, we've lost, but you played really well," and he used to bat it back and be like, "No, we've lost the game." Whereas now he seems to be the other way. It's like, you've lost the game, it's been a bad performance, and he's coming out going, "We was unbelievable." So he looks like he's come away so much of what he used to be. So imagine though, if he turns around at the start of the season and says, "Yeah, well, I always win things in my second season," and then he goes and wins the Europa League, and then just drops the club and goes, "No, I'm all right, see you later."
Yeah, there's your trophy. Off you go.
It's just absolutely only these things can happen at Spurs. We're just an absolute basket case club.
I think it was his comment as well after the second leg when we beat Frankfurt. Didn't he say something like, "Oh, it looks like you've got to part with me for a little while longer now"? So
nice. See, a lot of this, I watch all of the interviews that he does, and when you listen to someone and you read quotes, they can come across differently. And what it really seemed like to me, what Andrew was saying is to the reporters, you're going to have to stick around a bit longer. I don't think he was aiming that at the fans.
Right.
I don't think that was a thing. I think he was turning around and going to the reporters, "You've got me for a little while longer, unlucky." And even when he was getting slaughtered in the press he was getting slaughtered by the fans about some of these press conferences. There was one with Moose from TalkSport where he kind of snapped at him. But the next question, Moose and him were laughing, but you didn't see that unless you watched the full interview, because it was like, oh, he snapped another interview, like he's going to start annoying all of it. So he does get misconstrued sometimes, but the whole fighting with the fans is just ridiculous. And I think that's one of his major pitfalls this year has been that he's coming out and fighting back at fans. He should just be walking away from it, and you could be in a different situation, to be honest.
One of the slight positive I'd probably take from his interviews, which I think he's done this season, regardless of how he performed in the results, he's actually seemed like he's protected all the players. He's took a lot of the stick on himself, and he's shined the light on him to say, look, it's me. I need to change. I need to be better. I need to do that. And I suppose as a player, that's probably the only thing that would be keeping them players actually playing for him, would be the fact that the manager's not turned around after the game and gone, yeah, he was rubbish, he wasn't good, he needs to step up his game. And he's protected them quite a lot, and he's even protected Daniel Levy in the actual club itself, and he's took a lot of the stick directly, and he's took that on himself. So
should it be back in Daniel Levy though? We've got a last guest that's arrived. Here he is.
Big man.
How are you doing?
What's going on, boys?
You're all right?
Apologies for the lateness, man. I thought, I misread it. I thought 10:30. I'm like, yeah, just
don't worry about it.
Put the rubbish out. It's rubbish day today for me. I said, yeah. I said, wait a minute, let me just double check. And I checked. I'm like, oh, snap. Yeah,
we're plugging through, man. Don't worry about it. We're doing good. We're doing good. How are you?
All right, yeah. No, I'm blessed, man. Can't complain, man. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. So, Audio believes that we're going to end up with someone like Southgate, high-profile man who used to be working developing young players, perfect for Levy. I'm hoping that them crying is not happy cries. I'm hoping that is, I am devastated that Southgate is potentially an option. Anyone a fan of Southgate?
Nah. I mean, how do you have that England team and not succeed? It's let alone dealing with some of ours.
Cockerell, one of the best names on YouTube. I don't care what anyone says. Legend, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
So
archaic football. If we get Southgate, we are done. I'm telling you, we will be so Banter FC. I'm telling you, everyone will be taking the mick out of us. Our fans will be divided straight away. There'll be punches up on the first day as soon as he is announced.
What's changed? What's changed? We're the Banter Club anyway. What's changed, man? What's changed?
Yeah, true.
So the next kind of situation, the next comment that we was going to kind of go through was Ash's coming at the perfect time, because we're going to move over to the change for Tottenham part. So I'm going to bring up the poster for change for Tottenham, and then let Jay kind of go over the bits of information, because there's been some new stuff that's come out recently. So Jay, over to you, my man.
Yeah, so obviously this is going to be our fourth big protest. We're hoping this will be one of the biggest and the best. One thing that's going to be Crystal Palace. We're just waiting on confirmation from Met Police regarding when the road closure is going to be, because there's no point in us saying be there for a certain time for people to be stood in the main road. The plan's going to be to walk down to West Stand. We plan to have a few surprises there. Obviously, there's going to be something to change it up a bit differently to the previous protests. So we're hoping there's going to be a bit more direction. We're going to go down towards the West Stand again. We're going to be outside. I'm unsure how the club are going to act towards it again this way, because last time they obviously fenced off the pathway, which is fair enough. People don't want to be involved. They haven't got to walk through crowds of hundreds of people. So the March to the West Stand is still going to be going ahead. The West Stand protest will be going ahead, full stop. The one thing we're encouraging all fans that are going to be attending to do is wear something yellow or have something yellow on you. So obviously anything pre-Levy, there's a few special Holston kits that are still available nowadays. But yeah, inside the stadium, we're going to be announcing something early tomorrow morning. A few of you may have seen it in the newspapers. BBC have recently reported on it today. we are going to be asking fans to do something at half time and just after. But yeah, it's just make your voices heard. Obviously, the reason we're doing this isn't because we want our 5 minutes in fame or we want to be this group or we want to be the new trust. What we're doing this for is to make sure the fans are heard. And obviously, our club, our voice. There's so many different parts of this fan base that feel disillusioned that they can't speak up if they're not happy about something. So the one thing we encourage people to do, come down and see us, even if you don't have a ticket. Me, myself, I won't be in the stadium. I will be drinking and coaching horses. So if anybody wants to come down for a pint, I'll be in there. But yeah, it's just all about making our voices heard. Ultimately, we're going to keep this going. We understand that the frustrations go towards the board more than anybody. And the one thing I certainly want to express to everybody is we understand change for some people isn't necessarily Levy going. Some people think that he's doing an okay job. People are entitled to their opinions. We disagree. We believe that at the moment it's not football first priority within the club. So yeah, even if you're feeling like you don't find this season acceptable, it should give you all the more reason to stand there, be with other fans that are like-minded, and just yeah, keep supporting the movement.
Yeah. So earlier on, there was a question from Matty. Is it simply for Enoch and Levy out? Will Ange out be part of the protests?
Yeah. So obviously, we understand that there's a big portion of the fans. At the end of the day, Ange is part of this problem. Ange is part of the reason why we are where we are as a club. Ultimately, it could change. You know full well in 3-4 weeks' time that it would be the most Tottenham thing in the world to finish 17th in the league table and go and win a cup. But at the same time, we understand there's going to be people that will do Ange out chance. For us, the focus is solely on changing the club as a whole dynamic. So yeah, it's not necessarily going to be directed at Ange. We understand there's going to be a few bits, and obviously we cannot tell people don't do it because ultimately you've got your own voice to voice your opinions. The only things that we ask for it to be kept respectful, make it inviting to people that might be not comfortable being in busy places. There's certainly going to be people with children. There's going to be people coming with their friends, family that might not want to get involved, and we're not here to force this on absolutely anybody.
Yeah, I think that's been managed really well. I think one of the big things that people were saying is that when you've got protests, that filters into the ground, and I feel like that's definitely not been the case. We've not, on some days, we've not had great atmospheres, but that's mainly down to the players. It's not been a reflection on the fans, I don't think. For anyone that's interested, all of the links for all the guests are in the description. You have got Change for Tottenham's website down there as well for all of their links, their Instagram, all of that sort of good stuff. So if you wanted to, please go and give them a follow. And if you wanted to take a look at their website and everything else, that's also on there. And yeah, I completely agree. I think that if you start going down too many avenues, you start getting Ange out as well, then you kind of get diluted in it. Your focus is obviously for the board to change. If the board changed, then the manager probably changes with that anyway. So it's probably part of the same thing. So I'd rather have Al from the old packs and still manage and have likes of them. So no to Poch then. So what? Obviously, I briefly spoke about it earlier. I don't think you was on at the time, Ash, but there's been obviously some links with Poch. Just a quick kind of how does everyone feel about that? John clearly is not a fan of Poch. He puts him in the same bracket as Parker and Southgate, which I think is a little bit tight. But what's your thoughts on Poch coming back and kicking on with the youth project that we seem to be going down?
Yeah, I don't understand the Parker. That's a bit mad. I don't understand that comparison. But I do understand people's resentment because they may feel like we should move on from that type of era. You kind of don't go back to your ex. It's that type of vibe. Me personally, I wouldn't be mad at it at all. I think stylistically, he could get best out of some of the players because he's an actual coach. He's on the actual grass, so he's able to communicate his ideas across to the players a little bit easier. You saw what he did with players like Dele Alli, who came from a troubled background, as we all know now, and he was able to kind of home him in and get the best out of him. We've got a few young players in our club at the moment, and I think they need to be, coached better. In my opinion, they need to be brought out. And in terms of what I was just looking at an old tape, I don't know if you've not seen on X. They're talking about the tweak that he did against, I can't remember the team, but he went from a back four to a back three, and the back three was he pivoted to
Was
back.
it great?
Yeah, so Dyer went in between Van de Ven.
Oh, sorry,
So Dyer went in between. No, it was Alderweireld went central centre back. Dyer went right sided centre back, and Vertonghen went left sided centre back. So that was the back three. He was able to switch it up, and we had like a 3-4-2-1. Do you know what I mean? Kane up top, and then the two was obviously Eriksen and Dele Alli. Do you know what I mean? So he just showed that kind of tactical flexibility depending on who's playing. He's able to switch it up, but he was still. He didn't divot on his philosophy, on his principles, if that makes sense. And that's something I like, where you're able to look at the opposition and say, all right, cool, we're going to do this. We're going to change it up from this. And he's looking at the profiles of players and he's like, all right, this player suits this particular system, or this player suits this, this matchup against this team. So, yeah, that's aside from...
I would caveat that by saying he did play Son at left wing back one time though. So
but out of how many seasons? Wait. Let's not do that. Out of how many seasons? Also,
I'm just glad devil's advocate. Come on. You do the same thing, Ash. I've watched your shows, man. I know you.
I'm just saying. I'm cool. I'm just saying that the one time he plays Son, and sometimes like. He would put Son on the bench and not use him. Do you know what I'm saying? When he was first coming in, he wasn't afraid to take players out and say, look, you're not playing today, and utilize them in different ways. But me, I preferred it where we had that kind of, Eriksen, he's on the right, but then he drifts into the midfield, into the 10. So that just shows to me like a little bit of coaching or tactical nous. Do you know what I mean? And Dele Alli being a box crasher, like, dropping into the box undetected with Toby Alderweireld hitting those diags or over the balls over the top.
So, do you know what I mean? The hot times and the good times.
Bro, it wasn't just short passing. Sometimes he could play it quick. He needed to speed it up. So, yeah, those are the type of things I like to see in a coach and a manager. Do you know what I mean?
Should be a fan of getting Poch back, Chris.
I wouldn't mind it. He brings the coaching staff, and I think as Ash just said there, it's having the players. We've got that young base of players, which I feel like Poch would be able to work with and get the best out of them. And as you say, tactically as well, we was one of the fittest teams under Poch as well in the Premier League. He had them. We could run for the whole game, and there never seemed to be that side of things. I think thinking with your heart in your head, I think most Spurs fans think with their heart you'd go, get him back because of he deserves. We want him to lift that trophy. We want Poch to do it for us just because he deserved one. But then you think with your head, I don't think it's going to happen. He seems quite happy at USA. He's there for the World Cup obviously next year. So you never know. I think it will be. I think he will come back at some point. I just don't think now it's going to be the time for him.
Is this going to be a Gareth Bale one? Where every summer we go, he's going to come back, and then eventually he comes back when he's like 74 and it's a caretaker manager's job for like 6 months.
Like the thing is with me, like me and obviously Mason, who just said about that, we were like, all of us were talking about it on WhatsApp the other day. I feel that disconnected from the club because of how it's currently run. If there's one thing that can give me that, whether it's false hope or whatever, bringing him back with just the hope that it does work out this time. But obviously, as everybody else says as well, if he comes back and it don't work out, again, he's the villain. And well, when he went to Chelsea, I'm not going to act like I weren't in his DMs calling him Judas and all sorts. But it's like, it's one of these things where you look at what we've had. Obviously, I won't use my analogy again, Ash, with the bins, but you look at where we are and the names we're linked with, and there's 2-3 names arguably that you're going to get that could work out, might not work out. Whereas Poch, you're going to get what's written on the tin. You know what kind of football you're going to expect. You know which players will work in his systems. And for me, if I had the choice to go right this summer, pay his 20 million release clause from US national team, like I think he would come back. If we was to put that money on the table and say we want you back, I don't think he would even think twice about it, regardless of this US national tournament. I think he'll come back. There's a reason why he stays in London. He's constantly meeting up, and I understand he's got a relationship with Daniel Levy. There's a hope that he wants to come back, and he constantly twerks for us when he has Sky interviews and says, "Oh yeah, my dreams to come back," and all this. So yeah, for me, if you're putting Scott Parker on the table and you put in Pochettino on the table, it's probably the easiest choice you're ever going to make.
Does that relationship with Levy, like that for me, I've never understood that, because of the way that Poch left. He never got a chance to actually say bye to him. He just wrote a note on the board and then he was gone. I've never understood how that relationship has always stayed strong because of the way that he left. So there might be more behind it that obviously I don't know about, but
No,
I always find it
basically-
quite strange.
No, he basically said that, like when it came to business is business, but outside of business, like there's a difference. Do you know what I mean? Like you could be cool with someone, but when it comes to business, it's just separate. It's non-personal. It is what it is, and I think that's what the relationship they had, and he understood. Like this is football at the end of the day, and that's why Levy's so ruthless when it comes to firing and hiring coaches.
But that's what I mean. It's one of them. It's one of them things. I think it was commonly noted outside of football. They were always at dinner together. I think Daniel Levy actually attended quite a few like social events with Pochettino specifically, even after he sacked him and whilst he was Chelsea manager. Obviously, everybody see the picture that circulated. What was it, about a month and a half ago, where they were out for lunch. Yeah, it was a fairly recent one, but outside of it, you got to remember there's a friendship there as well. So I don't know. I'm one of these people now where I want to fall back in love with the club, and I hate being this negative person. Obviously, Ash know me long enough. I've had my negative days. I just want the positive days where I come on here smiling and saying, "Yeah, do you know what? We've just won a North London derby. We've won 1 in 6 London derbies, 1 in 7 London derbies." So,
rough, man.
Yeah.
You just want to come on stream and say something positive. So
yeah, about some.
Poch will definitely bring that. So moving on now, obviously to the weekend. Liverpool away. I can't imagine there's a single Spurs fan out there that thinks we go there and win. But in terms of, there's been loads of question marks around team selection, who plays, who doesn't, who gets rested, who doesn't. There was a lot of people made a thing of it, the fact we went so strong in against Forest. Now, for me personally, I felt like we should go strong. There's so long until we play the semi-final, and if players are going to get injured, they're going to get injured. It's just one of those things. One player I can't see playing at all is Van der Ven. But what sort of team do you think is going to be played this weekend against Liverpool?
Yeah, go on.
Now for me, it's got to be a rotated team. But again, it can't be one of these teams where we're going to have Arsenal fans saying we've deliberately put that team out. I think we're going to Liverpool. It's not necessarily going to be this sort of game where we're expecting anything from. As I said earlier, I think it's a game where we've got the opportunity to put somebody like Archie Gray into the middle and give him a run out in the middle. For me, it's rotating out. There's a few players that could do with a match sharpness. Odegaard could do with a good 60 minutes, 70 minutes in him again. Certainly be looking towards Danso, getting him some run-outs in his legs. Ben Davis, questionable. But yeah, it's obviously we're in a situation here where I think I heard somebody talking about it on Last Word on Spurs. If you're going to look at any player that needs to be wrapped in cotton wool, I watched Van der Ven at the weekend burst 60 metres trying to chase down Nottingham Forest winger. If his hamstring goes, we've got the option of playing Danso, who's not a natural left-sided defender, or Ben Davis, who can have one game where he's great and then 5 games where he's having a shocker. So yeah, and up top we had this conversation. Richarlison scores goals against Liverpool. He likes playing against Liverpool. If I'm going to force a move back to Everton, it's by bagging a brace or something up there this weekend. So
yeah, do you know what I think? I think that they mentioned it earlier that they said they're trying to get minutes into Mickey Van der Ven's legs, so he's not completely not match fit. You know what I'm saying? So I think they'll do another 45-minute stint with him. So he's got a full 90 minutes, 45 minutes at Forest, and then 45 minutes at Liverpool. And then, so I expect maybe Romero will get the same run out as well. So they might do the same little technique where they both play the first half and then second half they swap them out. I think it would be a bit more wiser if only one of them plays. So then you're not wasting 2 substitutes on 2 defenders, if that makes sense. You could use the substitutes for other positions. So I mean, I would, like Jay was saying, I'd probably use Danso. I'd probably use Danso for this game because of all the drama that surrounded Romero in terms of that interview that's just come out where he's talking about La Liga and, you know, whatever. I'd take him out the headlights and then maybe introduce Maddison back in as captain, playing for this one, put him in the midfield, bring Bergvall back as well. Try and get that midfield rolling, and then I'll probably have Kulusevski. I'll probably have Kulusevski out there as well because I want him to get more minutes, get a bit more sharper on the right, and then Tell, if Son's not fit, it's a toss up between Tell and Odobert because Odobert can play in the left, and I want to see if we are going to buy this kid, Tell. Then he needs to show what he's about in his next few games, in the next last 5 games, so fans could be really convinced about him. I think he was misused when we first bought him. Playing him as a striker, back to goal striker, doesn't suit him. I don't think that's his profile. I think him coming off the left or even him coming off the right suits him a lot more. So I'd be tempted to use him. The only reason why I'd say start with Kulu is because I'm thinking about Thursday. I'm thinking about getting his legs, sharper, getting these guys match fit. And unless you said to Maddison, we're not going to risk you, put Kulu in the midfield again. I don't think Kulu's looked too good personally since he's come back from his injury centrally. Do you know what I mean? So that's the only reason why I would probably stick him out on the right hand side, because I still want to include him and I still want him to get a run of games before. Like, I don't want to not include him, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of like shoehorning him in, if that makes sense. Because I know people were like, he looks better in the middle, but I just feel like the last few games he just hasn't looked at it. He just hasn't looked at the races. So I'm trying to get him match sharp, match fit, and then in the second half, maybe I would drop him into that midfield, maybe by taking Maddison off, by protecting him, and then on the right I'll put Odobert on. Do you know what I'm saying? Or I'd have Johnson come on the right and then put Odobert on the left, take Tell off. Do you know what I'm saying? But I definitely would, like Jay was saying, have Richie up top, because it's that Merseyside derby, as we said before. He seems to turn up for those type of games. But we definitely need Porro to start on that right side to kind of deliver those crosses that he's been doing. I think this is the time when we've actually started whipping crosses and doing deliveries inside that box for our striker. Solanke hasn't really had that service, in my opinion. But Richie, he thrives on that type of chaos. Balls into the box, little diagonals into the box, balls over the top. He likes things like that to get onto. So I'll start that. But I do hear what like Jay's saying in terms of it'll be good to see. I would do it against West Ham. I would put like the Archie Gray against like a West Ham, use him for that game.
That's where the big changes are going to take place, aren't they? Because we've obviously played Thursday and then we play again on the weekend. The weekend it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it like this game should be like prep for Thursday, if that makes sense. Getting these players ready, not like it's a pre-season or anything, but it's a big game. You don't want your best team out, but you want to have a fairly strong team to kind of compete against Liverpool, because we don't seem to do very well there. But I just remember, like, I think Sarr being in the team, possession-wise, in possession, he's not the tidiest. I think Bergvall's a little bit better. That's why I would probably take Sarr out, put Bergvall in, because he's got a lot of more bite about him defensively, as well as legs, as well as technical ability on the ball. And yeah, you just want to see more players like that. He wants to play the ball forward a lot as well. So Bergvall / Madison and a Kulu on the right. Kulu gives you that kind of protection on the outside as well. So that out ball, almost like when you give him the ball, you know he's not going to lose it. It's going to stick there. And then players can run off him like a Porro, and he can drift inside into that kind of pocket. You know what I'm saying?
So your team's kind of 50-50 in terms of first 11 mixing with a few others, changing at half time. So
yeah, because I think we've got enough depth. People were complaining that Spurs don't have depth in our team, but I feel like now everyone's fit. We do have enough in our squad where we can put some players in there and the quality doesn't drop off as much as it used to. Ben Davies is a no-no for me, only because he's the left-sided centre-back. He's going to be having to deal with Mo Salah. I know Salah, obviously, he's touchline, but I thought on the slot, he kind of inverts a lot more. So when he inverts and he plays closer to whoever's playing the forward striker, he's going to be in Ben Davies's realm. And you know, when we tried to do the high line thing, Ben Davies it'd be two centre backs essentially. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
the two centre backs versus like a Mo Salah on a counter attack would be nasty. Like, I don't want to see that. You know what I'm saying? So I would rather like his pace. Like, nah, please. And as Jay was saying, I want to be a happy Spurs fan. I want something to say like, all right, at least we gave it a go. You know, we might not have got the result we wanted, but you know, we showed a little bit of grit and we could build off this going into because the worst thing for me is playing whack fan base being like, oh, you know what I'm saying? You know, that black cloud like hovering around the fan base, around the players. And then, you know, you kind of want that kind of momentum to say, oh, like we drew with Liverpool or we gave them a game, even though we lost and they won the game. We hit the crossbar, we hit the post, we tested the keeper, whatnot. Maybe if we'd started with this player, then we would have had. Do you know what I mean? A little bit of optimism, because I think momentum is a real thing in football, and you want to carry that into your next game. Do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's what it is for me personally. Like, but yeah, I don't want to talk no more.
Jay, do you want to? I know you've got to shoot, mate. Do you want to quickly say your piece?
Yeah, obviously, I want to appreciate you guys for having me on. It's a privilege. Obviously, Ash, lovely seeing you for the second time this week. Nice to meet you as well. Obviously, first time speaking to you boys probably in person, so it's great. Just if anybody feels the way we all feel towards wanting change within this club, please just turn up against Palace. March with us. Just turn up. If you're not going to be going to the game, come for a pint with me afterwards. I'm more than approachable. But yeah, I just want to say thank you. And obviously, come on, you Spurs, I suppose.
Cheers for coming on, mate. Guys. Appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. See
you later. Take care, mate.
Bye.
Yeah, so that's there's 3 left. So basically, as I say, I definitely feel like the rotation is going to take place at West Ham 100%. That's when we've got obviously 4 days until we play again, and it's going to be away. It's going to be on that plastic pitch as well. So there's going to be. So I feel like that's when the changes are going to come.
The home leg is the most important. We need to get a big sort of gap in that game. We need to be 2, 3, 4 goals up, because we could go to the away leg and it could end up being a bit of a sticky place to go to with the pitch and everything else. So yeah, I feel like 100%. Thursday's game is going to be the big one, and we need to turn up, and we need to get that distance in the game.
From what I've read, I don't think it's as cold because that was the big thing that came out how cold it is. I think the timing that we played them, the temperature isn't as low as it can be, and but it's obviously on that 4G pitch. I think Spurs have a training facility where they do have a 4G pitch, but yeah, that away leg is going to be tough. 8,000. I think is it something like 400 fans? I think we've got to take there.
All right, yeah, I know their stadium's 8,000.
Yeah, so they've got 8,000 fans. I think there's 400 Spurs fans that can get out there. So obviously they're going to be outnumbered, and yeah, it's going to be one of them.
So I'm looking at the temperature. I don't know if this is right. I'm on Google though. I don't know if this is right.
I'm sure I read it can be like -5 or something like that, but actually it's not supposed to be that cold.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing like 10 degrees. I don't know if that's right,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, I think that's what I see. I think between 10 and 15 should be the
Yeah,
rough
between 10 and
estimation.
15. So that's not cold at all. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. But the pitch is obviously the pitch. That is the big,
of course.
the big
Yeah,
thing.
it's a 4G pitch, but like you said, we do have that in our facilities. But like I just don't want to hear any excuses anymore, bro. I'll be honest with you. Like this team is no disrespect to the Norwegian teams, but we are Premier League. You know what I'm saying? We're meant to be at least the top 6, top 8. You know what I mean? I know, like, we were a top 4 team, but right now of the season, last season we finished 5th. Let's be real, we finished 5th last season, so I can say we were a top 6 team. So I don't want to hear that, you know, the conditions and the pitch and all the rest of it. We need to be going and beating this team hands down. I mean, player for player, I think we're the better team. And I just look at they've got a suspended player, I believe, or 2 or 3 suspended players.
Yeah, I think their strikers, their main strikers suspended, and a few other big players for them were suspended for the
their
first leg.
Their goal scorer from the last game, he scored and then got a red card, didn't he? Or a second yellow.
Yeah.
So their goal scorers off here, 3 of their bigger players. But I agree. In the media, it always feels like we've never got any balance. So when we come up against a team from another nation, it's always a case of they're either the best thing in the world, even if they're 5th in the league, or they're absolutely dreadful and we should be battering everyone. There's no kind of middle ground. Like you speak to some fans who go, oh, Bodo are going to be unbelievable. They're fantastic. They're brilliant. And then you go, are they? And then you get others who are like, oh, we should just be absolutely smashing these lot because they're playing that league and that's it. There's no kind of. I know that Marlon actually he's been saying that he thinks they're the dark horses, though, hasn't he? He's been saying it for a while.
Yeah. He has been saying that. I just, I don't mind that. For me, I just don't want excuses. I don't mind the whole, whether you rate them or you don't rate them. Like that's just down to opinion at the end of the day. You know, they have beaten some teams along the way. Obviously they beat Lazio to get there. I know they gave I think it was Roma. They gave Roma trouble in the past. I know they've beaten Ange before. Celtic, I think 5-1 all over.
Yeah,
both games.
Someone posted what the team was like on that day from Celtic, and it's again you're talking about completely different levels of
I hear it, but I'm just saying that there's teams that they've played along the way. And they've given them trouble is what I mean. So, I'm not saying we better watch out. Like I'm just saying, right, this is what they've done on the way, and it's. I hear both sides, but yeah, I still rate my club in it.
100%. Yeah. There is no excuses, is there? If you go out like you said at the end of the start of the season that you're going to have Bodo Glimt in the semi-final to get to the final of the Europa League. You're taking that every day of the week, whether you've got injuries, whether it's an away leg, the second leg.
Yeah, you're buying your ticket in there to the final straight away. You're getting your flights booked because you're like, we're going to be there. But I just hope that the mentality of the players is not, we're only playing Bodo Glimt. I hope they take it as it's just a semi-final and we've got to beat the 11 players in front of us and we've got to go out there, play our game, turn up and win. And as you say, you can use the pitch as an excuse. The only thing I worry about the pitch is if there's any injuries from that because of the different type of pitch. If we do end up going through, again, it's just hoping that we get through without any serious injuries for the final.
Yeah.
So we kind of already touched on it, but will we win the Europa League? And if so, does it save the season?
It depends on who we play. I think if we play Manchester United, we've beaten them 3 times already, but in a one-off game in 90 minutes, mentality-wise, they're used to getting the job done. I'll be honest with you. So it's a tough one for me, innit? Because I want to come with chest and say, yeah, we will dominate Man United. Man United are awful, and or they're not awful, but because we've beaten them, we've had Amarim's number each and every time. We do him in. Bilbao, sorry, it's a different kettle of fish because they are the home team. However, I'd say it's 50-50 now because the stadium will be split half Spurs fans, half Bilbao fans, so they won't have really a home advantage like that. But yeah, it's it's a final. Anything can happen, man. Like we could definitely lift it. We could definitely get a win there. Do I think we'll win it? I've always said no. I just couldn't see it. But as every game goes by, you get new evidence to kind of like push you in a different direction. Forest obviously hasn't helped off the back of that loss. Don't think Liverpool will help off the back of that result, because I was thinking our last 5 games we're going to pick up some type of momentum.
Yeah.
Now we've got our players back. You know, everyone's fit. That hasn't quite happened. Do you know what I mean? It hasn't quite happened in the way I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
And so that just leaves me with more questions. Do you know what I mean? I want to be optimistic, but this is Spurs. You know, I've been burnt so many times. And so many times I've talked it up. It makes you be careful. You know what I mean? It's not even like I can be fully shameless and say, yeah, we're gonna lift the cup and we're gonna get it done. I just need players like Solanke now to start hitting that ground. He needs to start, you know, half chances. I feel like he's the type of player that needs 3 or 4 chances to get the one chance in. He's not a person that gets a half chance and puts it away. He might get it on target or it might go over the bar. But under pressure, when the ball's coming at him fast, can he just get a toe out? Like, can he outperform a chance that's not really there? Or can he create something out of nothing?
Mm-hmm. How many half chances does he score? How many chances does he score where you go, oh, he's done well there, sort of thing?
Yeah,
is it all just,
you know, like sometimes everyone's saying like, oh, he relies on service, and he hasn't been given the service. But sometimes from your forward, you need your forward to produce something like by themselves, like out of nothing, to be that big. The only time
he's done that, did he not do it again? Was it not against Arsenal or?
No, he did against Man United in the cup.
Was it United? There was one time
we went 3-0. We went 3-0 up.
Yeah, that's it.
And the third goal, he just dug it out, got out of his feet, took the man on, and then he put it in the corner, bang. And I was like, I knew you had it in you, son.
That's what I need.
I knew you had it in you. And I just need to see that side of Solanke a lot more, like, and not being relying on. But I understand that he does a lot of his work outside of the box. I get it. He presses, he links the play, and that's the reason why, you know, Johnson will get all the plaudits because he's the one on the back post. Maybe at when he was at Bournemouth, he'll be on the back post, putting the ball in the net. Do you know what I mean? And some of those goals are taken away from him because of the system and what's demanded of him. But in saying all of that, I still want him to be that man to kind of get those goals, to kind of pin his defender, you know, be physical, do what like you see Chris Wood do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just get around or something.
Yeah, like I'm saying, Chris Wood, like you can't. How can Chris Wood be outscoring you? Do you know what I mean? I want to see him like Mateta. Mateta does a similar thing where he's got to body his players, he's got to body defenders, he's still got to do work outside of the box, but he still gets the goals. He's still got like 14 in the Premier League. Yeah. Double what Solanke's got. Do you know what I mean? And it sounds like I'm being harsh on him, but at this level, and for the club that we're aspiring to be, you need killers, bro. I'll be real. You need killers. Like you need in that box. Like I'm not even comparing it to Kane. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, right, in that centre forward position, if he ain't doing it, then we need to bring on someone that will. And yeah, I don't know.
You don't want to compare him to Kane, but at the end of the day, having the luxury of having Harry Kane up front doing what he does, it's always going to be hard to get someone in.
People forget that it's not just Kane. Son's outperformed, not this year and probably not last year, but literally every other year he's been at the club, he outperforms his XG to a ridiculous amount. So you're talking about 2 of the most lethal finishers, and we've had them as a standard for the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
So naturally, you just look at. It's not. You don't want to sit there and say Kane and him, but that's all we've known. Was all we've known.
Do you think then? Like, do you think Son's being played out of position? Do you think if Son was closer to the goal, if he was like operating on that edge of the box where he used to play, a bit closer to the striker, we'd see a lot more out of him, like not being asked to defend so far back or start some of the attacks? Because sometimes I feel like he's involved in the build-up, taking the ball off the fullback, but that's not really his game, especially at his age. Like when he's playing for Korea, he almost plays as a 10. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't even play up front. He plays like a 10 off the striker. So when we saw Son get the golden boot, what Salah's doing actually right now, Salah's not really a touchline. He's more like, you know, inverted into
Yeah,
the
like inside forward, isn't it?
inside forward kind of role. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Do you think then like another manager looks at him a bit like what Glasner does with Eze? Eze doesn't really play touchline. He can go touchline, but predominantly you see Eze in that kind of pocket, in that inside channel, in that kind of half space where he's more lethal, and he kind of ghosts into the positions where he gets into on the end of things. Do you think that?
It's easy to say right now because of how low we are in the table, but when a new manager comes in, is there priority to get the best out of Son? Because what's getting the best out of Son might not be the best for the team. Do you know what I mean? Like if you think about it, if we go for like a wing back, so say we went 5 at the back, say that, if we went 5 at the back and you've got Udogie flying down that wing, your natural thing is that Son's a more inside forward. So that might suit him perfectly. But if you're bringing in another manager who has the wingers wide, then do you try and change your system to suit Son? Like I think maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, you might try to do that because you know that he can change anything. Is he now at the age where, because for me, it's not necessarily just, it's what he does. The amount of times he gets the ball and he just passes it back. But and I know a lot of people say, is that the tactics? Well, it wasn't when Odegaard starts. It's not when Tell starts. So if it's not the tactics with them, why would it not be with Son? Maybe Son just doesn't have that in him. He doesn't have the aggression.
Don't you think though a coach should look at the team and look at the kind of profiles that they have in their team and say like, all right, cool, these are my best players. How do I get the best out of them? Let's kind of put the system to this, because I think that's what Conte did when he came. He came in, he looked at the team. And I know Conte is a bit more robotic, do you know what I mean, than we liked. And I think that's where we fell out of love with Conte, because it was too system-based. It was too system-based, a bit rigid. And he wanted this player here, the ball went here, then that player will play it out to that player. And then, you know what I mean? And then when teams figured it out, it was, you know, we didn't look too sexy. But it would be nice if we had a coach that wasn't married to a particular formation, and he just looked at the players and just said, yeah, all right, cool. When you guys are on the pitch, we're going to play like this. When I make my substitution, we're going to change it. Do you know what I'm saying? We're going to go from maybe a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, and we're going to go back into a 4-3-3, for example. Do you know what I mean? And make small little, or 4-2-3-1, like depending on where the game state is and like who's on the pitch, and just kind of feel the game. Do you know what I mean?
I think there has to be a balance, because I think that
that's what I mean.
Let's use like Frank and Silva. They're very adaptable. Their teams play in very different systems, different formations. Now, if that constantly happened at Spurs, I think Spurs fans would start getting annoyed. I think they'd start saying, "Why are we chopping and changing every week? Why are we?" Because it's different if you have a different game plan for the top 4 or 5 clubs, but then everyone else you play the same. But for them, they'll look at certain strengths, they'll look at weaknesses, they'll change it around. And I feel like Spurs fans will be like, I don't really like this. But then the other part of me also says that Ange has never changed. He's never done that. He'll go in and he'll sign players that suit his system, as opposed to work around what he has.
Don't you think then that is quite similar to Conte in a sense? Where Conte was quite rigid, and he had his system, he had his way, and it was his way or no way. Do you know what I mean? And we've hired another strong-headed manager, and also he's married to his philosophy and his ideas. Do you know what I mean? And so, as I was saying, a small adaptation where you've got a balance between, because we've got ultra attack. We went from ultra defensive,
we've gone from one end to the other,
to ultra attacking. And it would be nice, like you said, to kind of meet somewhere in the middle where we get a bit of both. And like, I agree. You know, fans will moan if we adapt too much, if we are like, because that's what happened with Emery. Emery adapts, and fans are like, if he didn't, you know, sit back so much, he could have won the game. Or if he wasn't so open and expansive, then he wouldn't have got beaten so easily. So it happens to coaches all the time. Do you know what I mean? But I do feel like that is the direction. After having the two extremes, we need to somehow find a balance and get a manager that is a people's person that's likable, that can work with the players, you know, get on the training ground, get mud on his boots, and then get his ideas across like that. That's what I want in a coach moving forward. If we are to have, because the director of football, that's another question. We don't know if Langer is going to still be there. Do you know what I'm saying? If Langer's going to move on.
That's one of our big problems, is that our whole season is going to be like, for instance, you can look at teams like Villa, Newcastle. You know that they're already looking at who they want to bring in. But we can't do that because we don't know if we've got Champions League football. And if we do, the caliber has to be a different level. And then also, do we need as many players in the squad if we've not got Champions League football? And then the other part of that is you can't buy players for a manager. You don't know who's going to be the manager. You can't appoint a manager before you appoint a director of football if you're going to change that. So we're literally just waiting for the end of the season before all of these decisions. And that's one of the problems. But one of the reasons why I did want to ask about the Europa League, and this is something that I haven't seen mentioned all that much. If we do get into the Champions League, we have a serious problem on the homegrown issue. So we had it this year where we couldn't register two players for the Europe because we didn't have enough homegrown players in terms of like club trained. And next year we're going to have probably one less because you would imagine Whiteman leaves because
so basically this is the reason why we're probably linked with Diblin. And we're linked with Gomez.
No, it's the club trained that's the problem for us. So going back years, you're talking about it's not homegrown. It's so you've got Skip, Winks, Kane, Walker Peters, Tanganga. But they've all been. But Marcus Edwards didn't play for us. But they're
you have to go back for what's his face from Chelsea, isn't it? Madueke.
I don't think Madueke counts. Because I think you had to be there for a certain amount of time before you turned 18. And I think he left at like 16, 17. Only reason this is me going off of FM. I'm pretty sure he doesn't count. But you've got Carl Walker-Peters that does count. And that Carl Walker-Peters contract ends at the end of the season. And it's like, do we go and sign players that are probably not good enough to be in the squad, but actually we haven't got a choice? Because otherwise, as far as I'm aware, the only player that actually counts right now would be Austin. I might be wrong. People in the chat might say that that's incorrect, but I'm pretty sure that the only one in the current squad that would count is Austin and Whiteman, but Whiteman's contract ends at the end of the season. So what would we do? We'd need to bring in 3 players that had previously played for us, or we go into a Champions League season we can't fulfill the numbers again. And this is one of the issues that I'm talking about in terms of the problems at this club, is that how have we got to a stage where we haven't got this, we haven't got 4 that we can put
poor squad management, ain't it?
It's terrible.
Don't have the answer to that, unfortunately, but
Matty says this, he thinks it's the same as me, that Madueke doesn't count. I'm pretty sure on Football Manager.
So Madueke was at our club 2018, 2019. Tottenham youth. He's a Tottenham youth player.
Yeah, but I think you have to be there. You have to like have a signed contract for like 3 years or something like that. And I think he left after 2 or something.
Yeah, he left after 2. Saying here he was there 2018 and he's left.
So Carl Walker-Peters definitely counts. Matty Sam, bring back Kane. I mean, that would be the one, but that ain't happening.
So wait, out of like Mikey Moore, he would count as a club trainer, or
he won't. I don't think he needs to be registered because he's under the age of 19 or something like that. So there's like a B list.
So he doesn't count.
You can
still classed as a youth player.
He would still be able to play, but he wouldn't need to be. He wouldn't need to be included.
No, but we're trying to look for numbers now, isn't it? So I'm saying
no. But what I'm saying is he doesn't need to be part of. He would go onto your like youth. You have like 2 lists. So you have your main list and then you have a youth list. So youth list, they could be added on. He wouldn't need to be in the first 11. So you could still have another senior take his spot and he could still play because he's on what we call youth lists. So you could go whether he's on your list or not, he's basically taking up a space you don't need to add. So you could just leave 2 spaces. What we did this year is we registered Austin and Whiteman and then essentially left the other 2 slots just spare. You could still play more. Who else could you play? Donnelly would probably count. I think Scarlett actually would be one as well. So Scarlett would come into, but we'd still need to, unless we go into it and do what we've done this year. And that was when everyone was talking about the whole Jed Spence situation and him being dropped and everything else. It predates Ange, because the problem was that he had to leave someone out because the squad weren't put together correctly before he started. It's just absolutely madness. Yeah, so Jamie Donnelly would probably be the other one if he stays in the squad. Oh yeah, Parrott would have been as well. But this is what I'm saying. You look at some of the levels of these players. We're talking Champions League. We're going to have a drop off in thing. So this is something that why we need to start looking at the kind of young players.
So Donnelly, Lancashire, Scarlett, and you're saying Austin as well, yeah?
Austin's in. Austin will definitely be in. Scarlett will probably be the second one. And then
how many players does it need to be? How many players does it need to be? Yeah, so that's it. Donnelly, Lancashire, Scarlett, Austin. That's 4.
I'm not sure whether Donnelly will be. I don't think he'll be in the first team. I think he'll get a championship loan personally. But this is the kind of issue.
If that was the case, and we needed a 4th player, then I think
these are the kind of issues that, again, like I'm saying, like Cole Walker-Peters, I don't think he's. I think we've got 3 fullbacks at the moment, and Cole Walker-Peters could slot in there. He's not going to be a Champions League style player at all. But for the homegrown issue, you might have to start looking at him. And again, it states that we're not sure what's going on until we get into or get knocked out of the Europa League. It's just.
And again, it's probably transfer money that's being spent on someone that could go elsewhere.
He's a free transfer.
He's
a free transfer. His contract expires. That's the reason why I was looking at him, thinking, you could bring him in as a fairly cheap option. He'll know he'll be back up. Sense. Kind of already touched on by Matty, but so we're going into the summer now. What would be the dream signing for you?
Go on, you can go first, bro. Go on, Chris.
For me, again, I don't know if everyone would agree with this, but Harry Kane coming back, if that was an option.
What if it isn't an option? Because that would be my dream. But what if that wasn't an option? Because that majorly depends on whether they win the league and how things go.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we're crying out for is a holding midfielder, someone who's a number 6 who's just going to sweep up and do that. So just signing someone that's got a bit of reputation that is known to do that job very well. I don't know who that would be. I can't think of who would actually take, but I believe that's what we need. That is who we would need, is a solid holding midfielder. But the dream would be Harry Kane coming back and helping him try and break the Premier League goal record.
So you've done something very similar to me, and you went, let me think of the position we need the most, centre midfield, and then didn't choose a centre midfielder. And that's exactly what I done. I said centre midfield, and then I went with Mbeumo. I don't know why, but I think if we got Mbeumo, I think it would completely change our attacking impetus. But I do think we need a central midfielder as well. Ash, I know that you like to look into it, mate. I know you like to do your little scouting reports. There's a few names that I like in the central midfield, but who would be your dream sort of signing?
It's not a dream signing, but in the 6, I've said his name a few times, but his name's it's Ben Stiller, and he plays for Stuttgart.
Yeah, and
I just like in a midfielder. The issue I have with Bentancur at the moment is when you give him free reign, he is good instinctively, right? But given time and space, he hasn't got the IQ to know when to go long, to open up the pitch, to switch it over the top, speed things up. He's not really a dictator. And I think that's the reason why you're seeing Maddison drop back into that role, into that kind of fullback, into the 6 sometimes, whatever. He picks that ball off the centre backs, and then he's trying to do this cute disguised passes through the lines. Now, if we had 6, and it's not necessarily a destroyer, but someone that kind of would sit next to maybe a Bergvall, that would allow Maddison to push higher up the pitch. And that could actually help coach players like if Wharton came in or Archie Gray, for example, that could help develop them to another level, because you've got a player in that position showing you the way and seeing, like, talking to you, like sometimes you see when Archie Gray, he said it like in the interview when he was playing at centre back, he said it was very helpful to have Ben Davies next to him, regardless of what we think of Ben Davies. He's a seasoned pro. Do you know what I mean? He was like, stand here, move forward now.
Yeah,
right.
talking him through the game, basically.
Talking him through the game. Do you understand? And so with Bentancur, yes, he's a good footballer, a good player. Some people don't rate him. I just think with a player like Bentancur, he needs instructions. Like, he was really good under Conte, because Conte is automated. He's very system based, and you just stand here. If you stand here, the ball goes into the fullback. Then once you get that pass, I need you to step up, go forward. That's why he didn't like Basuma, because Basuma doesn't really follow instructions quite well. Do you understand? Tactically, he didn't really trust him, because he would wander off and he would lose it. Do you know what I mean? In the 3, you could have Basuma, but in the 2, in the double pivot, it never works. So I would like. And for me, that's the profile that we're missing in the midfield. Someone that can play those balls, like whether it's a faded cross from over the top or a flighted ball over the top with enough weight on it. Do you know what I mean? Or it could be a quick pass through the line, something like a strong pass where you punch it through into your forwards, and that gives you central progression. Because I think Spurs lack that central progression. We always go out to the wings. Yeah. And the patterns of play are very obvious, but it would be great if we had a player dictating from that position and they offered something a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? So
he's just signed the new contract, hasn't he? But I think that included some sort of release clause or something. But
yeah, it always does. When they sign a new contract, it always. But equally, like if I couldn't get someone that would pass through the lines, I don't mind Timber's brother. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's what I wrote down. That's what I wrote
Timber's
down.
brother could break lines through getting on a half turn. Very similar in the mold of Gravenberch. You know, he's got that same type of profile. Get on a half turn, make it move, pick it off the fullback. You know, and I think that's what teams are looking at now when they're scouting. They're looking for players that can get on the ball and they can break lines through their dribbling or their passing. And I think that's what the Quinton offers in that role. Do you know what I mean? Well, fuck it. If you could get both of them, why not? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
I've done a little thing a couple of weeks back for Harry Scarf, and it was about dream signings, and I kind of went through all different players. But my expectation then was that we would not get through the Europa League, so I was trying to go for Eredivisie teams. I think there's loads of players we could focus on that would be able to improve us. But Timber was one of them. I thought he would definitely be able to come in.
Got the physicality of his brother. Do you know what I mean? But also like the skill set that you want in your midfielders. And the thing is, he has got the pass on him as well. If he wants to find that pass over the top, you can switch the play if he needs to.
Yeah, but I also think that if we was to potentially go down the route of another manager, you've probably got two players in central midfield playing a bit closer together, with Maddison being offered a freer role. So therefore, how much does he need to play through the middle if you've got Maddison to play the ball too? So you kind of
It's all about relationships, like, and link play, and you're gonna get that with some of these players. Also, there's a player. If I'm looking at the Premiership, what people are saying in Bremo, I've been watching Damsgaard, and I like Damsgaard.
Ericsson.
Yeah, I just see Ericsson. You see as well, because when I see him, you know what it is? I like players that, and Bergvall does this to an extent, but when they're in like wide areas, because that's what Thomas Frank wants his midfielders to do. He wants to create overloads on one side, and he asks his midfielders to pull wide, and then the other midfielder turns into a 10. So when Damsgaard pulls wide, he's good in tight areas and tight spaces by the byline, so he could like work his way through either small passes to kind of get out of that press, or he's got enough, like, you know, up here, IQ or quick decision makers where he can get on that turn, play through the lines, and then get that pass out. And then, do you know what I mean? But yeah, in that final third, he's feeding in Bremo, he's feeding Wissa. He's the one that pass before the pass, but fast before the assist. So I like him as a player, and I liked him since Sampdoria, because we were actually linked with him before. So I started scouting him then. I started looking at him then. I was thinking, ooh. And then when his first season, he took a while to adapt. He wasn't
physicality, wasn't it? That was always the question mark. He's even smaller than Eriksen, wasn't it? So,
exactly. And now he's got that physicality sorted out, and he understands the pace of the league. He's adapted like a frog to water, man.
This Matty said Harry Gray. This is interesting because he was linked with us literally the day we signed Archie Gray. This is his brother. I don't know if you know him.
If I'm being honest, I need to see Archie first. In that
apparently,
he's meant to be better. He's meant to be better. He's meant to be better than us. So, but everyone's hyping Archie. This is the reason why I'm saying, like, look, Archie was meant to be generational, and it wasn't just Spurs fans. It was like fans of football were saying this guy is amazing. Like, watch when you see him. When we start playing him, he's going to be amazing. He's a 6 and an 8. He came out in the interview. I watched it. He said he's a 6 and an 8, and I just need to see it before I can have that kind of confirmation in my own mind to secure. Because you could be wrong about a lot of players. Do you know what I mean? And not every player it works out for. Some players, he like, look, Lewis Skelly, he's a midfielder, all right, but he plays as left back. He's their left back now. Do you know what I mean? So I need to see Archie Gray. Is he more than the right back? Because he did play a good 60 to 70% at right back at Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So for him to take the step up and play for centre midfield, and the reason why I put so much emphasis on it, because playing a right back to midfield is a complete. You kickball, bro. So
look the other way. Look the other way. Look at Trent when he went into the middle.
There you go.
What I mean? So you don't need just going.
Yeah, it's different ball game, isn't it?
Different ball game. You've got the byline as that helps you. That's all that can assist you. When you've got the byline,
you ain't got to worry about
extra. Yeah, exactly. And also you've got one. You can pin one player. When you're in the midfield, you've got a player coming from your left, your right. You've got already your first touch. You've got to position your body. You've got to check your mirrors 24/7. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you make a mistake through that middle, it's all on you. And that's the reason why you've seen players like Rice get ridiculed, saying, "Oh, look, he passes it backwards, he passes it sideways. Rice can't get on a half turn, blah, blah, blah." Do you know what I'm saying? But that's not really Rice. For me, he's not a 6. He's an 8, in my opinion. So I want to see if Archie Gray, can he dictate from central? Is he brave? Does he have the bravery as well to get on the half turn, to pass it forward? Do you know what I'm saying? I've seen snippets, but over a season in the men's game in the Premier League, in the most high pressure cooking environment at a club like Tottenham, can he, like, you know what I'm saying? And that's the difference between your academy players and your grassroots players. You know what I'm saying? These players that make it, they're scanning their head like this. You know what I mean? Like a tower watch. You know what I'm saying? So
they know what's going on before the balls come to them. They know what's around them.
Anticipating everything already, aren't they?
And they already know what they want to do before the balls come to them. Do you know what I mean? So I just need to see that for me personally. And if Archie Gray can do that, then we ain't got to worry about our 6.
But Jay mentioned it earlier on, like these games now, maybe not Liverpool, because it would be unfair to kind of get his first chance in a midfield against Liverpool. But these games in the league now are a prime example to see whether Gray can step up. That's one of my biggest critics this year of Ange, is the fact that we haven't seen Gray in the midfield enough. And even if we see him a few games and he's not up to scratch and then he's dropped, I'm cool with that. But I haven't seen enough to tell me.
He needs exposure, didn't he, to see where he's at.
But also, I don't feel like the midfielders have been delivering performances where you go, well, I can't really do too much. Like they're playing so well. Where do I bring him in? Like, if a lot of people would probably say Basuma's probably done with now. Some of these performances have been dreadful. We got dragged at half time for, I think it was like 3 games on a trot. So we're not talking about people that are in very good form. So Archie's not getting in.
The issue is, though, if I'm being honest, it's hard to play both Archie Gray and Bergvall.
100%. That's what I've said.
Yeah.
But you know, the only thing, I've been saying this, I think I might have come on your show and said it. I think that's the reason why I think Gray's not getting the minutes. No, it wouldn't have been your show. But anyway, I've said it.
Yeah.
But then on the weekend, Bergvall didn't start and Gray didn't start. So
Yeah.
And that was what I was going. Listen, you can't expect an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old to start in the midfield of a Premier League game. It just does not happen for a reason. But then on the weekend he dropped back. So
yeah, but this is the whole debate at the moment with Tell, because people are saying he's gonna block Mikey Moore's pathway, which I think is incorrect. I think Mikey Moore.
Incorrect if we manage it right.
Yeah.
Mikey Moore's, but the Mikey Moore's 17 though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's 17. He's still got many years ahead of him. So, like, if you're gonna blood him in, you could blood him in. Like, I know he played one league game for us, didn't he, against Palace, I think it was, and the rest were in the cups. So
he started games in cups and things.
Yeah, he started games in cups. So for me, that's not going to be blocking his pathway if Tell was coming in. Do you know what I'm saying? Everyone's like, oh, Tell's taking it to block it. How do we know Archie Gray is ready?
Oh, your mic's gone. You just lost your sound. But just saying on that, there you go.
Yeah.
Get you back.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. I personally think that, like, Mikey Moore, they need to communicate. Like Ange and Langer and Scott Mann, between the three of them, they need to communicate with him and his team, his agent, his parents, and himself. Sit down with him and let him know, like, what the plan is going forward, so that he's not getting frustrated, because there's no reason why he should be taking things off his his social media platforms. You know, he's taking off pictures and videos of him scoring goals and whatnot, and his debut. He's all taking it off his social media because he's not understanding, like, what his plan and what his role is at Spurs long term.
I don't think you was on when I discussed this, but I tweeted this earlier on today, a couple of hours ago, and it's the podcast, The Fighting Cock. So it's Flav, and he went on there with Lily White Rose, and he discusses the Moore situation perfectly. And he said he knows anyone that don't know Lily White Rose, everything to do with youth football at Spurs. He knows. He goes to as many games as you possibly can. If he don't know it, it's not worth knowing. And basically, he knows people around Mikey Moore, and Mikey Moore is absolutely delighted with how his season's gone.
There you go. So that's the information that needs to be.
And that's, you can't get any more concrete unless the player came out. And apparently, the reason why he shut down his Twitter account is because he was getting Spurs fans constantly bombard his Twitter saying, you should be starting, you should be doing this, and it doesn't help him. Do you know what I mean? He's like, why do I want to do that? So Mikey Moore has effectively, we've heard it from the horse's mouth, effectively, and he said he's happy with the minutes he's got. And I completely agree. If he's managed correctly, then there's no reason why it blocks his path. It shouldn't block his path.
Exactly. This is it. And so, like, this is what needs to be corrected. A lot of Spurs fans, they just start to run away with narratives which aren't true. Do you know what I mean?
When there's a lot of hype on a youngster, I think it happens quite a lot. A youngster gets a lot of hype, and we expect to see him a lot more, where it's sometimes they need to just be managed a bit better. I think someone said about Mikey Moore's physicality, like, he's personally, I don't think he's ready. Skill wise, and I think talent wise, he's definitely got it there. He will be a very good player, but I think, as you say, managing him correctly, it's just unfortunate when a youngster does get a lot of hype from the under-21 league or the Premier League 2 division. I think there's then that big thing to say, well, get him in the first team then, whereas it's not always the step up from that to the Premier League is a bit bigger, and you don't want to then push someone into a position or into a team where they then don't meet that expectation.
It's not just that, it's that a player's trajectory is not, it doesn't go like that. It doesn't go, you're that player, then next year you're that player. That's not how it works. So, like what Matty's saying here about Lamine Yamal, you're talking about an absolute generational talent that you probably won't see again for 10, 15, 20 years. You can't compare everyone to that. What we should be doing is we should be comparing them to players like Kane, where you go, actually, he's 20, now he's starting to become a first-team player. So if we were to judge him off what Kane is, for instance, more than 3 years yet to get to Kane's age.
Yeah, look, just to jump on that, piggyback onto that. So I think Bergvall, they wasn't expecting him to kind of blow up like this, to go off in this trajectory. Do you know what I mean?
Not this quick.
Not this quick. Do you understand? And I think what fans did, they looked at Bergvall and they just swiped it across the whole of the academy, not academy, but any youth player that we had, and especially the preseason we had as well. The likes of Donnelly being one, Archie Gray being another, and who else? Yeah, Mikey Moore, obviously. Do you know what I mean? So these players, they will get their chance. I think Donnelly's doing well in League One, so now he needs a loan at a championship club, because that will be the next step. Because we've seen that with some players where they've done really well at League One, and then they go to championship, and then it's like, oh, okay, this is a different level. So that would be the next step for me. And then if he does well in championship, then clearly we know he's ready for the next step up. But yeah, these guys are young. They
so young. I've just had a look, and in this year, because people also, what they don't realize about Mikey Moore is that Mikey Moore hasn't played under 21s football. Mikey Moore last season was under 18s. He trained with the first team, and then he got some injuries, so he didn't even play under 21. So he's jumped from under 18s into senior football. So this year he's played 17 games. He scored 2 goals and got 4 assists. So he's 17 years old, and he's nearly played 20 games for the first team.
Yeah,
he's played so much, it's mad. But it's just.
I was going to say you're right, because I think Yamal, Lamine Yamal, has warped a lot of people's kind of perception of what, like, you know, if young players, if they're good enough, play them. Do you know what I'm saying? And it just doesn't work like that. Do you know what I mean? Players do need time to develop, blood in, and their body needs to grow as well. They need to grow into their body. He's probably getting like, I remember that at those ages, I was getting growing pains. Do you know what I'm saying? My bones are constantly growing. So he hasn't finished growing yet. And if you play too much senior football, we've seen it with Rooney, innit? Like, sometimes the players that they start their careers ultra early.
So early,
they end up finishing their careers early too. Do you know what I mean? Saka, I feel like he started mad early, and the injuries are starting to come into him because he's played so much men's football at such a young age. You know, he's starting to catch up with him, and hence why Arsenal, you know, are where they are now. And you're like, oh, if we didn't have the Saka injury, but they're not understanding that he's played a lot.
Hasn't been injured for 4 years, and then gets injured for a period, and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe he's injured. It's like he's not had an injury for 4 years. Like, it's madness.
Well, it's bound to happen. So this is where things we need to be more, like, you know, diligent and mindful of some of these young, and they're humans as well, bro. Like, a kid, like, it's a kid at the end of the day. He needs to be coached, managed, and expectations of the fans. This is why I say sometimes, like, one of the people from the top, whether it's a coach or the director of football, someone needs to come out and kind of communicate some of these things to fans. You know, not all fans have this level of understanding and education in terms of, like, you know, ball knowledge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And also, as I've said earlier, the way youth football works is completely different to adult football. It's completely different. So the way you nurture a young player, like, as I say, I've heard so many people say we should literally just play under 21s teams in every Premier League game because the league don't matter. And I'm like, do you think that if they go out and play against, say, Liverpool and get beat 6-7-0, do you think that aids their development in any way? Because it doesn't. And you speak to anyone that's involved in youth football, it simply doesn't.
You know what happened as well? I think the pre-season warped people's perception as well, because in the pre-season, all the youngers were playing. They were flying. And then when we put the seniors on, the level kind of went, do you know what I'm saying? So I was like, why don't we just play the academy? Just play them. But because they had played together so much, the level kind of stayed up because they're used to each other. Do you know what I'm saying? But you take 1 or 2 of them out and then put them with the rest of them, it's going to be different. It's going to be a different level. So,
yeah, completely agree. I think that the youth, but again, we're going back to the whole manager situation. We need to get a manager in. If we're going down this whole youth route, which it looks like we are, which it feels like we always are, but we need to get a manager in that is able to manage that situation better, because the other argument is some of the managers that we've been linked with, I don't sit there and go, yeah, like when we signed Poch, it was like he brings young players through. There was one stage where he gave like England all of the last 15 debutants had all come from a Poch team. It was something stupid like that. So the other managers that we've been linked with, I don't sit there and go, "God, they bring young players through. They bring this. Do you know what I mean?" I don't sit there and go, I can see some of them as more experienced players or whatever. I think Xavi probably has a big plus on that the other managers do. So, but it looks like that's the way that we're kind of going. And obviously, the young players they need to come into a structured team. I think is one of the big things. And then kind of what we're going on to the kind of the topic is what do we think is needed in the summer to stop a repeat? Like, where do you think the club need to go now? Like for me, us been saying for a while, I think the whole club needs to just have a factory reset. Literally, everything needs to just be reset.
Yeah, I think staff from sort of the footballing side of things right the way up to the top of the board, there needs to be a big reset. There needs to be a big change. And then within the squad, I think you'll see a few, maybe 6 players, 7 players will go, I reckon. I think there'll be a clear out, and I think we will start a rebuild again. And I think it will be as well with another manager 2 years on from the original rebuild. But I think unless there's a change at the top, it doesn't matter who we get in. I think we're always going to be sitting here talking about the same things over and over again with Spurs, because it seems to be we've got the big managers in, we've got the winners in, not done nothing. We've then got the riskier managers in to try and prove something, and it's not worked. So for me, I think, full factory reset and balance experienced players with the youngsters, and not just keep signing youngsters to potentially turn them into world-class players and sell them on for a profit.
If we can't get rid of that, I know what you're saying about factory reset, another one, but the real issue is the owner. But if the owner's not going to go, then that's where I think we need to go down. I think that I know we had a factory reset, if you like, a couple of years ago, and we've been doing it in the end, but I feel like the appointments were wrong. I feel like Lange was the wrong person to come in. I feel like we need to just start with an idea and then go down that idea. And I've said it before, the managers that we're talking about, they all play different systems, they all play different philosophies. So we haven't got a clear vision. And what's frustrating is that I'll hear people say, well, we can go and get the Brentford manager or the Bournemouth manager, but they basically are a carry-on from the last manager. They're all brought in, and they will slightly develop the team slightly differently. They're not going in to do a complete reset of everything and start all over. And that's what I think our problem is that we go from one idea to another, and this is where we end up with players that don't fit in formations, players that don't fit in systems, and it's just this one's going to make Ash smile a little bit. Ash of Braba, he's always got a fresh trim.
Boy, you gotta stay fresh, man. You gotta stay ready, man.
When you're in the YouTube game, you got to make sure you're looking all right. You're on camera and that.
Trust me. You know what? It's crazy. Like oh man, the manager's situation, it's not easy. Like with Langer, obviously, I think his remit was to, because of his experience and what he is at his previous job at Aston Villa, he was in charge of like bringing through young players like not Morgan Rogers, sorry, it was Ramsey, wasn't it? Aaron Ramsey.
Yeah.
So I think what they looked at in Langer, they said, yeah, we're gonna go on this whole youth project, kind of buying the best youth players that are ready to compete now at a certain level, at a Premier League level. Do you know what I mean? So when people were like heard that, they thought, oh, we're doing this whole youth project. They thought we're gonna, bring all of our academy players out and play them. So like your Mikey Moores and all the rest of them. When really it was, I don't know if I'm wrong, but I think he was trying to do the kind of like Dortmund approach or the Ajax approach, where they kind of look across Europe, they see who's the best as a young player in that class. For example, Archie Gray being one, Bergvall being another, and we're going to go in that direction. And I think the problem is you had Langer come in late and then you had Ange come in before him, and Ange was appointed by Scott Munn, and the two philosophies weren't quite. I don't know if they kind of married up. Now, I think when we first got Ange, the idea was like, oh, he's worked with young players, so maybe he's going to be the one that brings through this whole youth approach. And then we found out, oh wait, he's not playing any of the youngsters in that first season. It was like, well, he's not playing any youngsters. And then Langer came in November, right? So when Langer's here now, second, season kind of summer window was his first proper kind of go at it. And when he came out in that press conference for Spurs on the Spurs website, and he was trying to talk about the vision that he had, that's what he was saying in his interview when the club interviewed him. He was like, this is the type of approach. So that's why we're getting linked. So we're getting linked to a player. Well, obviously we're looking at Tel, as we've spoken about already, who's a young player, just turned what, 20 or 19 or whatever.
20, yeah.
19. Odobert, again, similar age, players that are young, but they've got a little bit of experience at a certain level and they're ready to kind of compete now. And so, but the issue was we didn't have a coach that kind of, like you were saying, like a Poch that brings through those youngsters and develops them and nurtures them and gets them ready to that next level. And then also, there's another mix mash where I feel like fans felt like we needed, I don't know if you guys disagree, some seniority, and the senior players, we should have brought a few more in to add experience to the youngsters. Because if you just keep buying young, you've got a situation like what Chelsea are dealing with at the moment. When Poch came into that squad, he had to manage too many youngsters. There wasn't enough experience to kind of balance it out, and enough leaders, apart from maybe Silva at the back, who obviously left at the end of the season. And they've been suffering defensively ever since because they haven't got that leader, that person, that know-how. So I look at Spurs in that same situation where the leaders that we had, or the experienced players we did have, were letting us down, and we needed that to be supplemented in the summer when we were trying to do our transfer business. They needed to come in to help improve the starting 11, in my opinion. But if I was going to bring a coach in and it wasn't Poch, then maybe the guy, he's doing quite well, is at Ajax at the moment. He's an Ajax coach.
Yeah.
He plays a similar system, like a 4-3-3, front-footed football again, but can switch the tactical system when need be, can go from a man-to-man press into a mid-block, has played in other leagues as well. I think, was he at Brest before? I can't remember the team he was at before. Was that Brest or Lens? I think he might have been at Lens before he went to Ajax, but he was doing well anyway, went over. And he does well with the youth. He does well with the youngsters. So I'm looking at it from a logical standpoint, where if he's done well in France, bringing through youngsters, he's doing well in Holland, because Ajax were way off it. For a long time, it was.
They were like mid-table or even lower, weren't they, at one stage? Yeah.
Exactly, and he's brought them from there all the way to the top, and he's brought the youngsters through as well. So
I think they're winning a league. They're not. They either won the league or they're favourites for the league this year now.
Yeah. I don't know if they won it yet, but yeah. So I'm saying, look, I think we missed out, and Ange even admitted that he said in that summer window they got it wrong because they didn't bring through experienced players. They didn't bring through enough leaders into the dressing room, into that starting 11, and he went too youth eccentric. Do you understand? And that's where, like, the disparity between us, pushing on to where we needed to be from 5th, pushing on to that top 4 to where we are now.
But that's why I actually think that in 5 years' time, that the Lange signings, I think will actually be viewed upon differently to what they are now. I think Lange is the sort of person you bring in who's like an academy director, where he goes out and looks at all the young players, but then you have a sort of Paratici who looks after the senior ones, because that's where I think we fouled it. We fouled it on the seniors, not on the youngsters. I think quite a lot of the youngsters have been brought through, and that's the reason why I've left King Hoddle's comment up here the other day that half our squad are now Ange signings. I get that they were signed under Ange, but when you say like exactly what we were saying, we said earlier about going out and signing experienced players, I bet if Ange was offered a Stiller at 30 mil or someone like that, a Timber at 30 mil or a Gray, he would have gone with the Timber. But when you don't have them options, then he's gone and signed all these young players, but they're almost like a club signing, like what Conte said. Like
he signed Werner, didn't he? You got Werner.
So but what I'm saying is, when you go and sign all these young players, you're not essentially signing them for your now manager, are you? You're signing them for what they're going to do in 2 or 3 years.
For the future, yeah.
You know what I mean? So yes, they might have been signed under his tenure, but were they signed for them to be impactful in his squad right now to take it to the next level?
He could have said though to Langer, Werner, I don't want him. We saw what he did that first season. Yeah. We saw what he did that
I didn't understand that either, to be fair.
And he was like, yeah, second season, bring him on. Do you know what I mean?
What I find the worst is the 2 best players that suit his system in terms of wingers is Werner and Johnson. Because Werner is exactly what you need in terms of you want a player that beats his man, gets to the byline and cuts it back, and Werner does that. But the final delivery is poor and the rest of the game is poor. And then the other part of being a winger for Postecoglou is you get on the end of stuff. And that's what Johnson does. So the 2, potentially the 2 worst wingers at the club are exactly what he wants. He wants that sort of profile.
Doesn't make sense,
you know what I mean?
So why did it work then? Why did Werner not work in his system? Why is Johnson so heavy?
I think everyone says that like what he's done with Johnson is he's turned him into a machine of a goal scorer. Right? Like to score the amount of goals he scores is ridiculous, but he just doesn't do anything else. But that's what he wants. He wants his wingers to get to the byline and cut the ball back and then get on the end of stuff. And Johnson's obviously learned that. Why Werner hasn't worked? I was when in the Werner camp when it all came about that we was re-signing him. My view on it was we've got other priorities in other positions. If it's not a transfer fee, I don't think he's the worst option in the world going into a European campaign. But the way that he's just fell off a cliff is just remarkable. Like, I never thought he was going to be a star player, but I thought if you're a right back in Europa League, for instance, and it's the last 15 minutes and Son's been running at you, and then you're subbing him on and bringing Werner. I mean, what Werner done to Kyle Walker? That was the sort of player I thought we was going to be getting. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's just not worked at all. I mean,
he's burgling 165 grand a week for it as well.
You know what? It's crazy. I just think take Johnson out of the system. I wonder what he produces. Do you think Johnson's heavily reliant on the system, or do you think Johnson could thrive without this system? Could he work on a different manager? Because it'll be interesting to see what happens. Is it going to be a similar story with because Werner's confidence was just shot through the roof. You could just see it was a confidence thing, because there's no way, like, as a professional footballer, you can't, strike a ball. Do you know what I'm saying? That's just, bread and butter as a forward as well. But every time he was near that goal, his batty went. Trust me.
It's mad, isn't it? It's just mad.
It's ridiculous.
I've never known a player to go through on goal and be so utterly convinced that they won't score. Like when we talk about Son and Kane earlier, whenever they went through, I never thought they were missing. Never.
You put your house, you put your house on everything. The lot would go on them scoring.
I never thought he was scoring. Like, I never ever thought this is a goal. Like, ever. It's just crazy. And then when you consider what he actually done when he was at Leipzig, he was a machine. And the drop off.
What is that down to then? Is that down to the manager, or is that down to the system? Like, is it down to the like? What?
It's got a bit. I think it's gone on so long now. You can't look at anything other than the players dropped off, and the reasons for that could be so many different things. Is he taking his foot off the gas, or?
Wasn't he a flop at Chelsea though? Didn't we like kind of?
What I'm saying. It's literally this isn't something that's new. This is like he was poor here. Leipzig loaned him out for 2 years, or 18 months. So he obviously weren't good there. He weren't good at Chelsea. So that's got to be on the player, innit?
I hear it, man.
Anyway.
I just think it was. first season, all right, took a gamble, took a punt. He was available, and because the funny thing was, like going into when we first signed him, Man United were linked to him before, and everyone was laughing. Everyone knew that he would be a bad signing, and Man United were doing so bad at the time. We're like, look at Man United. Look, they want to be this fast transition team, and now they're going to sign the worst winger in the league. And then we signed him, not once. Do you know what I'm saying? And I was like, who is doing the recruiting here? Like, who's okay in this as well?
Yeah. As I say, for me, it was always a case of I thought our focus is elsewhere. Like it's similar to the Tell situation. I think Tell.
When you say elsewhere, what do you mean elsewhere? What does that mean? Like
what I'm saying is, if we're not Timo Werner was never the going to be your starting left winger. It was always going to be Son. So we was in the market for a backup left winger in my eyes. Obviously, this was before we got Odegaard. I was like, well, if that's going to be an option, I would rather us focus on spending money elsewhere. So, like, Tell is in exactly the same example, although I think Tell's obviously going to be much better. So, with Tell, would I go and spend 50 million on Tell? At the moment, no, because I feel like we need a central midfielder and a right winger before we need a left winger. And if we go and spend that money on Tell, then I don't believe we'll go and get a centre midfielder or a right winger, because we'll just go, that money's been spent there. Like, if someone said to me, right, you go and sign Tell, you go and sign Timber, and you go and sign this, then yes, I'm delighted with that. I'd definitely be getting Tell, but I just think that money's going to get to the start of the season, and the answer's basically going to be, oh yeah, but we spent 35 million on Tell, and it's like, yeah, but that's not the priority. The priority is your central midfield, where you need to go and sign a player. Do you know what I mean? And that was a similar thing with Werner. I always felt that our priorities were elsewhere. We needed to go and sign players in other positions. So if he was a squad option, hopefully in a year's time, we kind of improve on him again. But again, it's down to the ownership, the recruitment team, to come in and identify these players.
I'm reading from Fabrizio Romano that Man United negotiations for Mateus Cunha are now at an advanced stage. They're confident they can get the deal done soon. Formal steps will follow. I don't think we'll get something like this from us until our manager's sorted, man, unfortunately. And I think that's
100%.
The Tell deal will depend on A, manager, and B, Champions League as well.
I think that this year there is going to be a huge amount of money spent in the Premier League, because when you work it out, so obviously look at the bottom team. So you're talking, let's say Wolves. Wolves are going to get 60 million on Cunha. I wouldn't be surprised if that Gomez goes. So let's just say it'd be more than 40 mil. So Wolves now have 100 million to spend. Spurs are going to probably sell Romero. So that's 60 odd million. So do we have 80 odd million to spend? You've got Brentford, who have got all of the names that we've already mentioned. One or two of them are probably going to be sold. Bournemouth have got Kirkes. Is he going to go to Liverpool? So I feel like there's going to be so many transfers in this Premier League between clubs that there's going to be so much money spent. I think it's going to be ridiculous. And then we'll probably be sitting there signing loans and free transfers.
So, yeah. You're not looking forward to some of them. It's going to be a long summer.
If you was offered what Destiny says here, if someone said to you, we've got 50 million, we either go on Monberno or Tell.
I'm taking Monberno.
Yeah. And that is exactly why I'm not hung up on signing Tell. And I think, as I say, in 2-3 years, I think Tell will be brilliant. But I don't think he's a priority right now, especially if Son stays. Why can't we sign Cunha? I don't think we'll pay the wages.
We can't sign Cunha because we don't know our managerial situation at the moment. Whereas Manchester United, Amarim's going into his first summer window, so they're able. And also, there's the window. The Club World Cup's happening, so the windows are opening a bit earlier. So they're trying to get to the curve before Chelsea and City go crazy, because they're going to get an influx of money from just playing in that competition. So. And they don't know. Man United aren't sure if they will win the Champions League, so they're trying to tie players down before that, is obviously done. So if they can get Cunha signed to a deal, before, Champions League final or semi-finals kicked, then that makes smart business for them. Because if we all of a sudden win it, we could come in for Cunha. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way.
Yeah,
I
but
like
again, it comes back to everyone needs to be in place before we start signing players. Otherwise, again, we're signing players for a manager that might not want them.
Exactly.
Although I'd argue that if you come into
if we had more recent cup wins, like what Man U've had, because Man U've had FA Cup, League Cup, you know what I'm saying, in the last 3 or 4 years, then we might be able to say, look, we're on the way on our up. Even in our worst period, we're still a cup team. You still can get glory here. But we haven't won anything in 17 years, so it goes against us, and players know that as well. So,
but that's why what we're saying about transfer. This is why I'm saying that we need to look at an identity. So, like, let's say we go and get Iriola, right? For instance, Iriola is probably the closest thing to Ange at this moment in time. So, if you get rid of Ange and you bring in Iriola, and then you bring in someone who's very similar, who you go and sign is actually irrelevant, because you're putting in a manager that fits with the players you currently have. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's where our big problem is that we don't know whether our new manager is going to play 5 at the back or whether he's going to play 4 at the back. So now we start like going, well, what do? We have to wait, and it's
exactly.
The club is just
exactly. So that's where we're behind in the market.
Who Ferguson? Actually forgotten all about him. Iriola's never won anything, so not similar to Ange. I meant style of play, but I mean, it's been a long pod today, 2 hours and 20 minutes. There has been, the chat has gone absolutely mad. We've hit over 500 subscribers. There was like 700 people in the chat for God knows how long, and we've got like 20 odd likes. You tight people. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone. Obviously, massive thanks to the guests. Ash, do you want to do your little plug of everything of where to catch you?
No, man. No. Wow, Bun Spurs Kings, man. I'm joking. Yeah, we're on the road to what? 4,000, something like that. Yeah, if you want to enjoy, man. Me, I don't really, you know what I'm saying. But if you want to hear more, or if you want to hear Marlon or whatever, we try to mix it up with the guests so we get everyone's views. But yeah, man.
Gave me my first ever video on YouTube was on your channel.
Yeah, man. Big up,
started from you guys.
We're trying to like, you know, get everyone on and let them have their say, man. That's what, it's just one Spurs community, so we don't care if you agree with us or you don't. Just come and have your say, man. It's as simple as that, man. But yeah, man. Peace and love, and thanks for having me on, bro. Big up to the channel. Make sure you subscribe as always, people.
Thanks for coming on, mate. And then Chris, I know you don't do the YouTube thing, but you've got your Twitter account and all of that.
Yeah, so still sort of trying to get involved more with the Twitter. But yeah, Hubble Scope on Spurs. I've created it all now. It's all live on the system, and we're just trying to get a bit more active on Twitter. And I'll probably be on this with you most of the time. So I'll stay loyal for the minute until any other offers come up.
You're going to do a Romero on me and start talking about how you need to get a transfer into Spurs Kings or whatever, yeah? I appreciate that support. As I said, massive thanks to everyone. The chat has been crazy, the views has been crazy, the journey so far has been absolutely crazy. So thanks everyone for being involved. Peace out. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs, man.
Come on, you Spurs.
Love.